Guys, we've made it. It is Friday here inside the Live Impact. Not only here inside the Live Impact studio.
It's Friday everywhere.
It's Friday everywhere. Let me preface that. But it's Friday. We made it. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Thank you for staying with us here on WCNC Plus. Thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time tuning in this afternoon, across from me, the person who keeps me in line, keeps this ship and this car on the road. Look, it's Carlene Bragg.
Hi, everyone.
How are you doing, Carlene?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I get distracted sometimes. So we have a glass window right across me. Carlene can't see it. Her back is to it. So when I see people going back and forth, I get a little distracted.
Sure, of course.
A little distracted. I just had to put that out there.
It's a bustling area here. So, yeah.
I see heads pop in.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have tours. So
I got looky-loos.
Yeah. So I get a little distracted sometimes. But, yeah, it's Friday. Any weekend plans, Carlene? Anything? You got anything?
I'm going on a boat.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
On Sunday?
Actually, tomorrow. Tomorrow evening. I know it'll be cloudy, but the people with the boat make the rules. They set the stakes. So I'm gonna go.
You're right. You're right. Okay.
I'm excited.
I am not going to dampen your plans.
Please don't.
Hopefully the weather doesn't dampen your plans.
I hope it does not either, but I will be in a swimsuit in case it does.
Knocking on wood.
Right.
Hey, look, we might as well get into it. That leads into our top headlines for today. So first big headline is we're tracking the forecast. To look at the side panel right here. We're tracking for the potential of flash flooding, potential severe storms. We are weather alert on this Friday evening. So make sure that you have your TV and your phones, everything set on WCNC Plus, or make sure you have the app downloaded, WCNC Charlotte mobile app downloaded, so you can just be aware of what's going on, and make sure you tune in at 6:30 for our Weather Impact show. Brad, Brittany, they will both be in here. Our producer James will also be in here manning things, keeping an eye out there on the weather and a look on the radar, what's going on. Also, what we are following right now, today is day 3. And expected to be the last day of the NTSB hearing. And right now, investigators and officials are really discussing and trying to get down to the bottom of what exactly happened and what went wrong during that midair collision, that tragic midair collision involving a Charlotte flight crew. There's a Charlotte passenger on board back in January in the skies there on DCA Airport in Washington, D.C. So that hearing is happening as we speak. And also the Panthers are back in action today, back in training camp. Training camp continues. They had a day off, a much-needed day off. They've been dealing with the heat this weekend. Yeah. And look, it's exciting. It's going to be exciting because this weekend, not only is Carlene going to be on the boat, but the Panthers are going to be on the field.
Yeah.
Fan Fest.
They're back.
The Fan Fest is tomorrow. Let me make sure I get you the right day. Okay, tomorrow, 6:30, Panthers Fan Fest at Bank of America Stadium. Took a year off from Bank of America Stadium for Fan Fest. Last year was at Clemson.
Yep.
So Carlene's favorite school, Clemson, hosted.
I'm a diehard Gamecock. Y'all know this. Y'all know this.
I'm just stirring the pot.
They had to play somewhere. You know what I'm saying? They had to play somewhere. I get it.
They had to play somewhere. So look, Fan Fest is tomorrow. So make sure that you guys are staying safe out there at BOA, the bank. So all right. So those are our top headlines. We want to head now and get a check of the forecast, as that's a major headline. As again, we are weather alert this evening. Let's check in with meteorologist Majestic Storm.
Well, good Friday afternoon to you. I'm WCNC meteorologist Majestic Storm, and today is a WCNC weather alert day because while the first part of our day was pretty quiet, we definitely have a lot of cloud coverage out there still. We're preparing you for this afternoon and this evening because we think some storms will start to move through the area, and we're concerned that some of those storms will bring a lot of rain in a relatively short amount of time. So we're concerned that we could see some flooding, even flash flooding for the second half of our Friday. And then tomorrow for our Saturday, few more scattered rain showers, not out of the question, but the big story tomorrow will be a dramatic drop in our temperatures. I'm not kidding. If you have plans this weekend, plan for 70-degree temperatures for your Saturday, and then by Sunday, still mainly dry, small chance for a pop-up shower or storm, but temperatures will generally start to rise back into the lower end of the 80s, which is still below our average for this time of the year. We are weather alert today, specifically between 2 o'clock this afternoon and 10 p.m. tonight. We think that's going to be the time frame when some of those stronger storms will start to move across our area. Again, flooding and flash flooding will be the biggest concern, but we can't and some strong gusty winds. So if you have any plans outside for your Friday afternoon or evening, make sure you are aware that stormy conditions are ahead. Storm Prediction Center has nearly everyone under that low end risk for severe storms. So we're watching to see if any of those storms actually do pick up strength and become severe. But we'll also be seeing and watching very carefully to see if any of those storms actually provide some problems when it comes to flooding, especially in those flood prone areas. If you do live in one of those, make sure you're mindful of that. The risk for flooding is out there today, a medium level risk, but then you can see Saturday and Sunday, while it's not going to be completely dry, we're not going to be weather alert because we're not concerned about severe weather, and we're also not concerned about flooding for those days. There's a look at the rest of your Friday, though. The first half of the day, like I said, it's pretty quiet. So if you still have things to do after 2 o'clock, that's when it could start to become a little bit stormy, but likely it's going to be right around dinner time and afterwards that some of those stronger storms start to develop. Now today, temperatures will still be warm. We have that warmth, we have that humidity out there, which ultimately provides fuel for these storms. This is what radar could look like at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So notice, not everyone will receive this, but again, some of those storms could get a little strong at time, especially around 6 o'clock. There's 6, 7 o'clock, starting to see more reds and oranges pop up there. That's where the rain could be coming down a little bit more intensely. That's also where those storms could form. And then this is how much rain we could receive over the next 10 days, at least the opportunity for it. Nearly each and every day we'll have that opportunity for more rain, but you can see today we'll have the greatest opportunity, and then Saturday we're still looking at more rainy conditions ahead at times, not the entire day though. Yesterday we topped off at 93 degrees, and today we're forecasting 90. So right now we have 25 days in a row where our temperatures have hit at least 90 degrees, and today could be the last day, and then we have that cool down. Unless you're out in the mountains, it's already feeling much cooler. cooler. 72 degrees in Banner Elk for your forecasted high. 84 for Lenore, 86 for Hickory. As we're heading towards Gastonia and Lincolnton, I'm thinking upper 80s, low 90s. We'll see if we hit that 90-degree temperature because we will have a lot of cloud coverage out there today. 91 for Lancaster, and then look at that big drop in those temperatures, going from 90 degrees today to 77 by tomorrow, and then 80-degree temperatures with a warming trend by next week. And this weekend is not just our daytime highs that'll be cooler, but even our overnight lows. Feeling so nice after that long stretch of dangerous heat and humidity. Stay close to our weather team. We'll be on that as we're heading into the afternoon and evening, tracking scattered showers and thunderstorms and watching to see if flooding and flash flooding becomes a concern. Have a great weekend.
All right, so that is a look at the forecast. Look, we're weather alert this evening. Be safe. It's going to be rainy tomorrow. A big temperature swing this weekend, so enjoy that. We can get some much needed relief from this heat. All right, let's take a look now. This is a live look out of Washington, D.C., the NTSB hearing on day 3. Again, so right now, the hearing is aiming to explore how the actions of the FAA and the Army may have contributed to the nation's deadly plane crash back in January and marked as one of the nation's deadliest plane crashes since 2001. So that hearing is underway. Let's take a listen in.
Is potentially upgradable. Is there any other future plans in the Army as far as collision avoidance systems that would allow you the aerospace access that's in your job title?
So I think where you might be going with this is our motivation isn't just civil airspace. So being the Army, we have a imperative to operate in tactical airspace, which at previous mission was low altitude, congested, and it's a recurring challenge to safely operate in those environments. So we have a tactical imperative in addition to a civil imperative to have this technology on board. Is that what you're going after?
Yes, thank you very much.
I have a couple of questions. For the FAA, can you require military aircraft to be equipped with collision avoidance technologies?
So, for instance, the transponder and the ADSB requirements are done by airspace. So, anybody that's flying within the airspace where those are required, have to equip with those technologies. So we could require collision avoidance in a similar fashion, and then the military would be expected to comply in that airspace. Today, the collision avoidance requirement. The parts they're operating under, and the military do not operate under those parts, therefore they currently have no collision avoidance requirements from the FAA.
If I could just add, I think I was in the Air Force at the time the original TCAS requirements came in, which was the result of a mid-air collision as well as some other incidents, and that was a DoD direct to equip troop and passenger carrying aircraft in certain classes and categories with TCAS. So that was in the late 90s.
And with and this question is for the Army, for collision avoidance technologies that will use ADSB, probably for Colonel Flanagan, how would this affect Army policy in use of ADSB in civil airspace?
So ADSB, not just the Army, but DoD has concerns that I'm pretty sure most people are aware of, the fact that it's inherently open source. It has some spoofing vulnerabilities which make it non-conducive for those sensitive missions, which not just the Army but all of DoD has to operate on. So in civil airspace, when there's traffic information systems broadcast, TSB network, the Army can comply with mode 3 Alpha Charlie emissions and feed into that fused picture, so anybody who has a tie-in for the TSB network has the awareness. On non-sensitive missions, there's obviously not an issue with complying. I would offer a little bit more expansive. We are mindful of the additional details which are available, and another aspect of the micro common transponder that Mr. Rowland mentioned is the capability to do mode 5 level 2 Bravo, which is essentially ADSB information but using mode 5 level encryption. and that enables us to operate again in the tactical environment that we're focused on as a military.
Mr. Shin, could you just suspend for a second? I know that we have one witness. Don't leave yet. I have one question for you. You said one. I just have one question for you, Mr. Kasner, and if anyone else has a quick question for him, I know he has to leave, but he's also offered to answer questions in writing if need be afterwards. You had said earlier that TAs or traffic alerts, which we heard traffic, is still see and avoid. Can you just say why that is for people in the audience?
Well, in the case of an oral alert, your attention is simply directed out the window as before, except in this case you enjoy a bit of information about where to restrict your search. But even if you're using a display, you're searching on the display. We're not going to take the human out of the loop here.
Right, you're still searching. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thanks, I just wanted to make sure people were aware of that. Thank you for, did you want to add?
Add to that again, for aviation and helicopters at those low altitudes, as Mr. Invectin has said, we cannot afford to be focused inside of the helicopter really at all. Actually, one of the exhibits showed that, pilots only look inside every, I think, 9.2 seconds, something to that realm. So it's not reasonable to have a pilot look for a traffic advisory, process that, orient, figure out where they are, then do something about it. That we're talking over 10 seconds, which is not compatible for us, which is why we're fixated on the resolution advisory capability of ACAS XR.
Thank you very much for adding that, and thank you for participating on the panel, and have a good flight. No. Back to you, Mr. Shin.
Thank you. Dr. Kunze, ATAS, that's ADSB Traffic Advisory System, if I got that acronym correct, uses ADSB. Is that using ADSB pressure or GPS altitude?
It can use both, but it defaults to pressure altitude when available.
And as we talked about during panel 1 with the pressure altitude for the Black Hawk potentially having an offset from its true altitude, can you give us your assessment on how this would impact the effectivity of ATAS?
Yeah, it actually generalizes to ACAS as well. One of the key considerations when designing these types of systems is how the system responds in the presence of known or unknown errors. ADSB is unique in the sense that it actually tells you the quality of the data that you have, so you get an estimate of the error and therefore the trustworthiness of the data that you're receiving, but you don't get that with some of the other sensor systems that we use today. So when you design a system, a majority of the work is actually spent on designing robustness into the system for errors in position, velocity, altitude, or similar. Dropouts actually is a very common, especially at low altitudes. You sometimes lose a track, or things like latency if you have a secondary system that rebroadcasts information. So the work that we have been doing in the special committees for ACAS X, as well as the work that we had to do for ATAS back in the day, a large amount, we simulate millions of mid-air collisions over and over, and we inject over and over, like all kinds of different errors, combinations of errors. And then it comes down to tuning the system to have robustness to the presence of errors while maintaining the safety and operational suitability or nuisance alert characteristics. So it really is a game of tuning it just right with the knobs to satisfy all the design objectives that you might have. You could optimize for perfect data, and you could get very, very, very good alerting, but as soon as you move off of that perfect data and you have the presence of an error, the system would be too brittle and it would break, and you would get nuisance alerts again, or you would miss alerts altogether. And so the design to be robust to the presence of errors is a fundamental consideration when you build these kinds of systems.
Mr. Suki, can you expand on why pressure altitude is the default used for TCAS and also for ACAS?
Yeah, because of just the, I guess, the standardization of pressure altitude in aviation, and its ability to be used without having to be compensated, at all altitudes, and so it'll be the same for each aircraft, or I should say uncorrected. So just because of its availability, it's out there. It's used internationally, so it's sort of standardized in that respect, and that's why it's leveraged.
Thank you. And one last question. This probably will also be for Mr. Suki. We talked during panel 1 about how with older technologies like the barometric altimeters that use Android wafers are very mechanical, and so they have multiple errors that can stack up in that design compared to newer technologies like air data computers that have higher accuracy. How do collision avoidance technologies compensate for the varying types of pressure altitude accuracies or inaccuracies that you may have in the national airspace system?
So I would go back to what Dr. Kunze was talking about, is building the robustness in the collision avoidance capability. We're not looking so much as accounting for error. It's what we get from the transponder and the quantization of that information to the transponder, and then we treat that along with all these other state uncertainties, and make our determination of needing to alert or not based off of that. So it's more what we're fed, and we're dealing with what we're fed with our robustness checks and tests associated in the alerting logic, and we go with that. So we're not down at the finer level of all the different errors that tally up.
Sorry, I know I said one last, but this will be my last one. So in something like a Class Bravo airspace, holistically, would it be better to have more accurate pressure altitude data being fed to the transponder with collision avoidance technologies?
Yeah, better data is always, better. But again, we're having to build for a lot of robustness with other systems that are in the NAS or in the world aviation system, and we have to be able to account for all of them, and we have to ensure that we are interoperable with all of that. So as those enhancements move forward and they're extrapolated to more users, you can lean on them in a more heavy fashion. But as of right now, it's really hard to remove systems from the airspace, and we still have to be accountable for them.
If I may add something to what Neil just said with respect to the errors, one of the things to keep in mind is that the data coming into the system is very important when it comes to determining the quality of the alerting. Better data is better. The flip side to that is the dynamic uncertainty of the behavior of the aircraft is just as important. We may have very good data about an aircraft, but we can't predict the future perfectly. And so you may have very good data that tells you don't have a problem, but then that aircraft maneuvers and you do have a problem. So from an uncertainty perspective, yes, state uncertainty, position, altitude, velocity matters and it needs to be minimized. But that doesn't get rid of the uncertainty problem as a whole, because you have dynamic uncertainty as to what the aircraft is going to do, especially in aircraft that are not in communication with air traffic control or maybe, a VFR aircraft that's not under IFR operations. So that those two buckets are actually very important and need to be considered individually.
Okay, we're going to have Dr. Bramble for a couple of follow-ups.
Yes, Mr. Suchi, bringing the focus back to the accident in question here, I found your table of simulation test results a little overwhelming. So Could you just tell me, if equipped with ACAS XR, how long before collision the PAT 25 helicopter would have received a traffic alert?
Yes, about 73 seconds.
73 seconds.
Correct.
And it would have been depicted on a display?
I couldn't tell you what they would have equipped with, but I mean, traditional implementations would have a display.
Okay.
And an oral alert. It would
Well,
have been
right,
traffic.
it would, well, this is a TCAS implementation, so it would have been just like a commercial aircraft implementation that was shown. It would have said traffic with a, if they had, if the display was, you know, they were equipped with a display with a yellow circle.
Okay. Lieutenant Colonel Flanagan, can you tell us, is there a current funded program to implement ACAS technology in Army helicopters?
So before I answer that, and I was kind of tempted to jump in during the last discussions, I think that it's important to recognize the overall trade space of the data we're talking about and the data sources. For example, a conclusion from that table is that increasing the altimeter accuracy by 75 feet by decreasing quantization from 100 to 25 feet really made no difference. But what did make the difference was alerting the human earlier and letting them take an action, taking into account the action model of the helicopter. So that's kind of the perspective that we take. Shifting to your question about the implementation timeline, again, our current focus is on the hardware, which is what we have to have before we have the software. As we speak, I have a team which is in Pax River doing component qualification testing. So with that actual box qualifying it for aircraft use, I have another team in Washington that's doing the software-based certification of IFF and transponder functionalities, just like the incumbent transponder. The forward-looking progress for that is we hope to start fielding in 2027.
2027. And is that a funded project, or would you have to ask for funding to implement that technology and all the?
The phase we're in right now is prototyping and integration, so we have to make it suitable for all of Army aviation, so about 4,000 aircraft, 12 different variants. That's no small feat, and that is funded. The actual procurement would start next year with funding hopefully arriving then in FY26.
And they could conceivably be installed in all 4,000 helicopters by 2027?
That's when deliveries would start and fielding would commence.
Oh.
The rate is to be determined.
I see. Okay, that concludes my questions. Thank you.
Unfortunately, Dr. Bramble, you gave me two more. Sorry. First, I want to comment on your analysis of the quantization not mattering. Just remember, these simulations were for this accident geometry only. And when you look at all the possible geometry variations over the NAS, I think you would find out it probably does make a difference. It didn't happen to in this accident.
We agree, yeah, and
Yeah.
we strive to do 25-foot quantization. Most of our aircraft do that.
Okay.
I don't oppose that. I do think it's worth pointing out in the table, though, that the degree of miss was 2 or 3 orders of magnitude with, the advanced notes from ACAS XR. So again, in this situation, it was relevant to point out, I thought.
Okay, thank you. And then, Mr. Suki, the last thing I wanted to ask you is, so Dr. Bramble was asking you about the traffic alert to the helicopter with ACAS XR, but you didn't really dive into the resolution advisory that was, because there were 2 separate ones that the helicopter would get. And can you just describe those briefly, quickly?
Yeah, ACAS XR is an ACAS 3 system where, unlike TCAS, where it only provides escape guidance in the vertical dimension, XR provides it in both the horizontal and vertical dimension. And the initial alert that when simulated, the initial alert that typically was the end result was a horizontal alert for the helicopter. And as you continue stepping through the encounter, at every step it reassesses, and it could change your alert and your dimension of the alert, or you could get them in both dimensions as a encounter strengthens.
Thank you. Dr. Bauer, that.
Dr. Price has a question.
Thank you. Mr. Suki, I have one question for you covering a topic that will come up in Panel 5, safety data, but since you're not on Panel 5, I thought I would take advantage of asking you here. It has to do with ADSB performance monitor data that your office submitted for this investigation. The analysis showed that there were 366 TCAS resolution advisories within 10 nautical miles of DCA between 2023 and 2025. Within that set, about a third of those, 123 of the threats that caused those resolution advisories could be positively identified. Could you describe some of the reasons why it might not be possible to identify some of the threats that caused those TCAS RAs?
Yeah, because of the source data where that was extracted from was from an ADSB monitor system that collects RA broadcast information as alerts are encountered. And that database doesn't collect the intruder information unless it's also ADSB equipped. So what's happening is you're getting the RA broadcast, it's collected, we go into the database, we extract, we can identify the aircraft that got the RA, and then with the limited data that's also collected with it, we can try and track down the intruder by mode S address, but we can't, because I don't have the actual raw surveillance associated with the whole encounter, positively identify for the aircraft that don't call out mode S as the intruder, what the intruder was, or, you know. So if it was a mode C aircraft, I wouldn't be able to confidently confirm that I knew who or what the threat was. So it's a limitation in just the database.
Thank you very much. That's my only question.
Chairwoman Hamid, if you could allow me some latitude, we're going to do a slight rearrangement of the witness panel. We're going to move Mr. McIntosh up front, and we're going to recall Mr. Dressler for one question. So hold on one second.
Yes, I'm going to go back and rediscuss a little bit about the for-flight electronic flight bag. And since we have Mr. Dressler here, who's experienced using that, I would like to get the non-military operator's perspective of using for-flight in the National Capital Region for traffic monitoring.
Thank you for the question. I was struck earlier by significant differences in the way that we operate, and I think that hopefully has been a consistent theme this week. We use for-flight. However, our aircraft, all of our member aircraft, whether that's medevac or law enforcement, are equipped with multifunction displays that receive traffic information organically. However, we also display for-flight all the time on a knee board. In the case of my company, it's required to be mounted there. We also fly NVGs. We also do not stow our iPad or electronic flight bag at any time during the route structure here. We display the map and I believe I heard, and I'm open to being corrected, but I believe I heard at one point Mr. Van Vetchen say that he might hand his iPad back to the crew chief during instrument flight profiles. And that struck me. If I'm reading that in error or listen to that in error, then that is my mistake. We're a single pilot instrument flight rules program, meaning one pilot, me, possibly, I think the general asked me the other day, if I'm carrying a patient, I might very well be flying an instrument approach into our hospitals with the med crew in the back. So truly just me. And we display, for people who don't know what ForeFlight is, it has several pages on it, and the primary one is a map page. When you fly instrument flight rules, you are required to also have available what are called approach plates, and it's a graphical depiction of your approach course. Well, that is able to be superimposed on the map itself, and on that map, just like in a car, using a car GPS system, you're able to display your own ship, your position with a blue dot. So I'm unsure how I would ever be able to complete an instrument flight without having my iPad on my leg. We don't turn them off during NVG operations. We may dim the screen slightly. We adjust them. But in today's NVG world, with the quality of NVG, there's no necessity to turn off or cover or stow an iPad, particularly in the DC route structure. I'm also unsure how you would be able to know where you are on a route when you're required to fly it as depicted when you don't have the map up, which we have a variety of level of maps we can display. We can display VFR sectional maps, IFR maps, high altitude, low altitude. Of course, helicopter pilots would never display the high altitude map. And then we can superimpose the helicopter route chart. The last thing I'd like to say is what I heard was that a Sentry antenna, which I have personal experience with, and what that, for everyone to know, is a very small antenna, battery-powered or plugged-in device, which can be mounted in the aircraft, and then using a Bluetooth connection to that very same iPad can display traffic. So I'm uncertain how you would say we can use the electronic flight bag for situation awareness, but turn it off or put it away. And further, if you have these Sentry antennas available, my company does not allow us to use Sentry or any other external antenna. The reason is we organically display that on our multifunction display. We receive ADSB in. We've spent a lot of time talking about, I did earlier in the week, talking about ADSB out, but what now we're talking about is ADSB in, where the pilots are given all of the tools and all of the resources to glance down and confirm aircraft locations. I can do this, and I want to assure everyone, I am a flawed person. I am not the best pilot in the world by any stretch. I make my own fair share of mistakes. But I can fly single pilot on goggles in DC with my ForeFlight up, looking at traffic, glancing down to confirm what I'm being told by our air traffic controllers. So I don't understand. I came from a dual pilot world as well. I don't understand how that's not possible, or possibly the word I heard this morning was prohibited for two pilots not to be able to confirm traffic in such a dense airspace as this. And I appreciate the opportunity to say that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Dressler, for bringing that perspective to our panel here, to our attention. I guess maybe the follow-up question then would be to Mr. Van Vechten about the prohibited comment, prohibited use of the iPad and ForeFlight in flight. Could you just kind of explain the Army's policy on that?
Sure. AR 95-1 and our airworthiness release prohibits the pilot on controls from referencing the iPad.
And is that in all flight situations?
Yes. And the way that I can accomplish an instrument approach is with a paper approach plate. We can brief it and then put it away. I have never had the batteries die on a piece of paper, but iPads can break. They do malfunction. The batteries die. And I don't know what kind of goggles he uses, but I have never not flown NVGs and had it glare off the windshield. I would love to get a pair of those goggles.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's the end of my line of questions. Certainly, ma'am.
Mr. Van Vechten, you said pilot on controls.
Correct.
That does not mean, could you talk about the other crew?
Sure.
I thought at one point you said you could pass it back to the crew chief.
Yes, that is correct.
Maybe clarify that a little.
Yes,
because you're not single pilot.
No.
Yep.
No, typically we are a pilot, co-pilot, and a crew chief. When we are on instrument flights specifically, the crew chief doesn't have much going on besides airspace surveillance, especially if we're IMC or instrument meteorological conditions in the cloud. They're literally looking inside a ping pong ball. So we pass them the iPad so that they can have situational awareness of where we are relative to different airports, and if we have a stratus with ADSB and information, where other aircraft are as well.
Crew resource management, maybe.
Crew coordination is what we call it.
Crew
yes, ma'am.
coordination. And for this, the crew chief, you had stated earlier that the crew chief, in this case, the position of crew chief, not the specific crew chief, is to do surveillance.
Correct. That is our primary purpose. And as far as knowing the Gila routes without a map, we do what's called a local area orientation, where we show the pilots where the routes are using distinctive landmarks and features. There's predominant roads. There's a few monuments in D.C. that are easy to see from a distance that you can easily navigate from. So at any given time, with or without an iPad, I know exactly where I am within the D.C. airspace.
Do you have a follow-up?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Madam Chairwoman, that concludes the technical panel's questions.
Wonderful. All right. We're moving on to the party questions. I'll start in the middle. Sikorsky.
No questions, ma'am.
Okay. Airline Pilots Association.
Thank you, ma'am. Can we please pull up 2 Air Gulf, page 60? And this is going to be primarily for Haskin and Mr. Suki. The MIT study shows that if ACAS XR had been installed on the helicopter, the collision chance would have been reduced by more than 50%. When did the FAA first begin its implementation of ACAS X?
All right, so we're about 10 minutes past the top of the hour, about 1:11, just turned 1:11. Thank you for staying with us here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Right now, you're taking a live look out of D.C. as the NTSB hearing continues. Today is day 3. They are examining and holding this hearing regarding this deadly D.C. collision that happened back in January, 6 months ago. Again, this is day 3 of the hearing. It's been going on since this morning, so as soon as we can, we'll pop back in. But we want to step away from that for just a moment, and we want to get to a bit of breaking news, we should call it. So some developing, breaking, something new for the stream, news for us. So I want to bring in WCNC Charlotte's Julie Kay. So Julie, you were talking to me about this. So some changes when it comes to, slight changes when it comes to City Council. Break it down for us.
Yes, so we got a hold of this internal memo from Mayor Bilyles to council members that I believe was sent out this morning. And that's because City Council is supposed to come back from their lengthy summer break tomorrow, or excuse me, tomorrow's Saturday. What day is
Monday.
it? We're coming back Monday. My next work day is when we're coming back. So they're coming back on Monday, and that's going to look a little bit different than it has been. So that's their business meetings, that type of stuff, but that begins the council back into their normal session for the last part of their terms, because of course there's another election coming up. But those bigger meetings are going to look a little bit different because of some concerns we've talked about transparency concerns, efficiency concerns. Yeah. So some minor tweaks to the way that council meetings will be formatted is that's what Mayor
Bilyles.
Guys, it's developing news. It's Friday. So Mayor Bilyles is suggesting that we're going to have time allotted at the end of these meetings to bring up concerns, bring up new agenda items, keeping it to 60 minutes so it's still efficient. And also she's suggesting, which is interesting, time limits on how long council members can speak. That is something that actually the Board of Commissioners does, so that's definitely not out of the question, but that would be a 3-minute time limit so that people aren't just, rambling on and on and on and fighting back and forth. So that would be interesting too. These are all seemingly minor changes, but of course a much larger discussion that we've been having over the past few months.
Yeah, I was about to say, where did this come? I mean, I feel like we've covered. This has been an interesting summer, I should say, when it comes to
Yes.
Charlotte City Council. So you just answered my question. This has been a discussion for a while now. Have you spoke to anybody from City Council? Has anybody from City Council commented on these changes at all?
Not yet, and this did just come in the last 20 minutes or
Mm-hmm.
so this is still very fresh for us as well. And the letter does not necessarily specifically address some of those concerns we talk about, but it does touch on it without getting too into the detail. She says, I think we can all agree the past several months have been challenging and that the public's trust in the body has been tested. We all owe it to each other and our community to finish our current terms the best way we can. So that's, of course, addressing some of the controversy without getting into it. We know, of course, the payout with CMPD Chief Johnny Jennings has been a big point of contention between not just internally in council, but between the council and the public, because there was a disagreement about whether or not that could even be released as public information, about the reason for this payout, that $350,000 payout. So there's been a lot of controversy over that. At the same time, Tijuana Brown, council member for District 3, is facing a federal indictment. So there's just a lot of things going on with council that has caused both the public and internal discussions about transparency and efficiency.
Well, it looks like new month, new changes for Charlotte City Council. Julie, are you going to be tracking this throughout the day? I know you're working on a separate story, but are you also doing this on top of the story that you're working on, the energy bill?
Yes,
Okay.
we're going to reach out to some of those council members you mentioned to get their response to this.
Yeah.
Of course, I'll probably see them on Monday as we get back to those business meetings. I know we're going to have a budget meeting that I'll probably be covering then. So if we don't hear from them today, we'll hear from them Monday. I believe I'll be in either the 4 or the 5 on this story, and then 6 on an entirely separate story.
And depending on how Julie, your day shakes out, you might be back here for a separate story that you're tracking. You might.
You know what? Based on the way that this hit started, maybe I should not, because I got the day wrong, I got the names wrong. We're fine now. We're back on track.
Well, here's the thing, Julie. We still have faith in you. So, Julie Kay with developments there on Charlotte City Council. Julie, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right. So, interesting stuff. Let's go to. You want to go to Greensboro, Carlene? So happening right now, we just got this in. So there is a press conference, North Carolina State Senator there in Guilford County. I believe that's in downtown Greensboro. I can't say that. That's in front of the Civil Rights Museum, International Civil Rights Museum there in downtown Greensboro. Let's see the old Woolworths sign right there. So right now, there's a press conference regarding what they're saying is a wrongful ICE detention. Let's take a listen into what's being said. I believe this press conference is still happening. Let's see here. That'd be quick.
While we're waiting, thank you everyone for coming. This is really heartwarming. I'm very supportive and appreciative of everyone coming out today. Thank you so much.
I'm going to use mine on the podium if that's cool.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right, so it looks like they're just changing speakers, miking up another person. Just to give you a background, State Senator Michael Garrett is holding this press conference with Mohammed Nazir's attorneys after, quote, his release was blocked. Again, this is a press conference that's happening right now. Let's take a listen in to learn a little bit more what's going on.
We need to bring Mo home. So ICE claims that they detain and deport the worst of the worst. But as of June 14th, around 65 of detainees had no criminal record. And further, more than 93% of them have not been convicted of any violent crime. So this is why this week's veto override of House Bill 318, the Criminal Illegal Alien Enforcement Act, is so painful. And while we're here to talk about Mo, we must talk about that bill because it is deadly and hurtful and absolutely atrocious that the veto was overridden. Our legislator has seen the barbarity of the Trump administration's actions against American immigrants and decided to make it even worse this week. This bill does nothing to punish criminals. It just terrorizes our immigrant communities. So let's be clear. Again, the title of the bill is the Criminal Illegal Alien Enforcement Act. Mo is not a criminal. The only thing on his record, as Senator Garrett said, is a dismissed traffic citation. Mo is not illegal. No human being is illegal, for first off, but let alone one who has followed the immigration process to the T. Mo is not an alien. He is a father, a husband, a neighbor. He is respected and loved by all of us here in Greensboro and across North Carolina. I am devastated that House Bill 318 has become law, for I know that Mo's story is not unique these days. I am committed to protecting immigrants like Mo and his family. We must bring him home. I am here to support you all. Again, Mo's case is not unique, unfortunately, but Senator Garrett and I and the rest of the Guilford delegation are standing together and fighting this. And again, we thank you all for coming today. So now I would like to introduce Maria Rosales. She's the Executive Director of Faith Action International, who has partnered with us for almost 30 years to protect our immigrant and refugee community. Thank you.
So I don't know how to do it. I'm going to let you.
Yeah, we got you. Your Tom.
If you have a pocket, you can just clip that on for me. Oh, it's not a real pocket. I can put it on my pants.
That right there. Run that right.
Okay. Am I good? All right. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you. As was said, I'm Maria Rosales, Executive Director of Faith Act. You can't hear me? Can someone help? Just speak up. Okay. I'm Maria Rosales, Executive Director of Faith Action International. That means that every day I get to work with wonderful people, immigrants and children of immigrants. We serve and advocate for and alongside immigrants and refugees. And I also get to work with immigrants and refugees among our volunteers, staff, and board members. I'm also the child and grandchild of immigrants. So the idea that immigrants are people to be feared and excluded instead of welcomed and appreciated has never made sense to me. Today I'm here to give a short, stark message. Mohammed Nasser deserves to be at home. His family deserves to have him at home. His neighbors deserve to have him at home. His co-workers deserve to have him at home. And we all deserve to live free from fear of masked people who refuse to identify themselves when they grab people without warrant or explanation. Think about it. If we were to design a political system for freedom and equality, would we have masked people with guns grabbing people off the street without warrants? Is that part of a system of freedom and equality? No. Would we keep people locked up for weeks, far from their friends and family, when they've not done anything wrong? No. It is even clearer than it used to be that justice for immigrants and refugees is a crucial part of justice for all of us. Thank you so much for being part of the solution to this huge problem. There are a lot of resources on the side of ignorance, power hunger, and cruelty. But there are more of us, and we have truth and love and justice on our side. We can do this together. don't know where it went. Thank you. Oh,
Sorry.
I forgot to introduce Jeremy McKinney, who is one of our most trusted immigrant attorneys and is an amazing person.
All right. Good afternoon. I'm Jeremy McKinney, a local immigration attorney right down the street in Fisher Park, and a past president of the American Immigration Lawyers Association. Our association has spent our professional lives, our members inside courtrooms, at the Capitol, and communities across this country working to make the Constitution's promise of due process real for every person, no matter their birthplace. I'm also a new member of the legal team led by my friend Helen Parsonage. Last night, I would like to announce that we filed a lawsuit in the Middle District of Georgia on behalf of Mohammed Nasir. It's already been said a few times, but it is worth repeating. Mr. Nasir is a longtime Greensboro resident, a married father of 5 with 0 criminal history. He has also never been in this country unlawfully, not one day. After ICE arrested, interrogated, and shipped him to a private, for-profit prison 500 miles from home, Helen sought his release. An immigration judge reviewed the evidence, found he posed no danger to the community and that he was not a flight risk, and ordered his release on bond. Money, his friends, these folks, attempted to post the same day. Instead of honoring that lawful order, ICE invoked an obscure automatic stay regulation, a regulation that lets an ICE attorney overrule an immigration judge with a 1-page form. No hearing, no facts, no neutral review. That is not law. That is a regulatory shortcut over the statute and our constitutional rights. Now, our lawsuit is simple. Number 1, Congress never authorized this gimmick. The Immigration and Nationality Act lets immigration judges set bond. It does not give an ICE lawyer a veto power. Number 2, the Constitution requires procedural fairness. Liberty can only be taken after a fair hearing. Mohammed had that hearing and he won. Keeping him locked up tramples the Fifth Amendment. 3, civil detention cannot be used to punish. Let me repeat that. Civil detention cannot be used to punish. Yet this administration, which transfers people like Mohammed hundreds of miles from their homes, from their loved ones, to often overcrowded and dangerous facilities. Has anyone ever heard of somewhere called Alligator Alcatraz? These places in the middle of nowhere, this administration has made clear cruelty is the point. And the Constitution happens to forbid it. It is unconstitutional. I want to be crystal clear. This administration loves the word illegal. They use it to label and dehumanize humans every single day. Well, make no mistake, The only illegal thing happening here is Mohammed Nasir's detention. I want to thank the hundreds of neighbors, faith leaders, and advocates who have rallied around this cause. Your support has kept hope alive for Mohammed's family, his wife, his 5 children. I especially thank Senator Michael Garrett for shining light on this injustice. And with that, I would like to turn this over to my temporary boss, Attorney Helen Parsonage.
Thank you, sir.
You got it.
I got the filter ready for you. There you go.
All right. Whoop.
Actually, do you mind if I put that
No,
right
of course.
there?
Go ahead. Whatever works.
And then if you'll...
There we go.
Perfect.
Good afternoon. My name is Helen Parsonage. I am an immigrant and an immigration attorney. Based out of Winston-Salem, and I'm very proud to be Mo's attorney. It's been an earth-shattering couple of weeks for Mo, his family, and this community. We are all shocked and outraged by this naked and unlawful display of power by ICE in our community. It's hard to believe that it's only 2 weeks ago that I got a frantic call from a community member who's here today. He was racing to a house telling me that ICE was trying to force their way in and grab someone. That someone turned out to be Mo. 2 weeks ago, these unidentified men tried to snatch Mo from his home, but his family stood by their right to refuse entry and to refuse to answer questions. They knew to ask for badges, ask for identification, ask for warrants, ask for anything to show what authority these individuals had to stick a boot in their front door and refuse to leave for over an hour. Not a single one of those items was ever or has ever been produced. 2 weeks ago, this group of men who refused to provide any identification or any authority detained Mo as he was in between jobs at local restaurants where he fixes the equipment. They gave him no reason, no warrant, no badges, no ID, nothing. They arrested our Libyan neighbor without a warrant and questioned him about his ties to Iran. Let me be clear, Mo is not Iranian. He has no ties to Iran, no knowledge of things Iranian. But even if he were, his detention would be wrongful and immoral. Within hours, and in my experience this was extraordinarily quick, he was shipped to the infamous Stewart Detention Center in Georgia, an 8-hour drive from his family. 3 days ago, in that same detention center courtroom, the judge looked at the evidence that we provided. They heard arguments from us about why he should be released. Many of you were there. Many of you heard the judge comment on how much support he had and what an impression that made on her. The government attorney was there trying to argue that Mo was a danger to the community. Apparently he was rude to these men, I called them bad men. That was from a government lawyer. But the judge heard all of this, she weighed it, and she determined he should be granted bond. That same day, this community came together with that money and it was posted. excuse me. Right after, 2 days ago, now we're just 2 days past, ICE pulled a rarely used dirty trick, and I'm going to call it a dirty trick, out of their bag of dirty tricks when they filed a notice of appeal invoking an automatic stay of Mo's release, a move that can only be understood as vindictive. I cannot believe with a straight face that ICE attorney really, truly believes that the judge's determination that Mo is not a danger to community was wrong. They could not look me in the face and tell me that. And in fact, when they file this, they don't have to give any
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. We are at a few minutes at the bottom of the hour here, 1:33. All right, so right now you're watching a press conference live in downtown Greensboro. So State Senator Michael Garrett is holding this press conference. So let me paint the picture in the release that they sent us. So today, members of the North Carolina General Assembly from Guilford County are joining attorneys for Mohammed Nazar. Now, ICE agents, what they're saying, wrongfully detained Mohammed Nazar, who is a longtime Greensboro resident. And they say that this comes after an immigration judge later ordered his release and supporters posted bond. ICE invoked a rarely used automatic stay to keep him locked up. And that's according to the office of Senator Michael Garrett. So again, there is press conference happening live in downtown Greensboro. You heard the crowd earlier saying free Mo. And we have a breakdown of the case right here on our Live Impact News side panel right there to your left of your screen. So that press conference continues there in downtown Greensboro. Well, we want to come back home because it's just been a roller coaster of things, right? It's been extremely hot. It's gotten a little bit cool. I hate to say cooler, but a little bit cooler outside. Still warm, but we're weather alert this evening because for the risks of storms, potential flooding, WCNC Charlotte's meteorologist Brittany Van Voorhees is here in studio. Brittany, you're tracking everything, weather. Happy Friday, Brittany.
I work the weekend, so it's not my Friday, but thank you, Nick.
I mean,
She got you.
I was just being nice.
I know you were trying to be
Just
nice.
being nice.
You did this to me every week. You're like, happy Friday. And
I was just being nice.
My Wednesday, Nicholas.
You know.
Brittany, we're happy to see you. Thank you for joining us. Happy to see you too, Carly and Brad.
Wait. Never mind. Anyway, Brittany, we are weather alert this evening.
Yeah, we are. It's August 1st.
It is August. Yeah, it is.
Which means that the hottest month of the year historically is behind us. Yay! Whee!
But we still got an entire month.
Yeah, we still got actually a few months.
We can still beat that record.
I mean, September and October can both be hot, but like different concern for a different month. Okay, so really quick before we talk about tonight, just want to do a quick recap of July. We talked about this so many times, but it was officially tied for the second hottest July on record. Of course, record keeping began in Charlotte in 1878, which means that October of 1878, which means the first summer we have data for is 1879. So these numbers are since then. 1993. Summer after this girl was born, still holds the top spot. 90 degrees today, so we're likely going to hit another day in a row of temperatures at or above 90. This is our top 4 spot for consistent 90-degree days. Remember, this was only broken by one day, which was July 6th, when we had breezy and cooler conditions thanks to Chantal making landfall. So without that tropical storm, parts of North Carolina wouldn't have flooding, but here in Charlotte, we would have definitely broken the record for longest 90-degree streak. But a big drop tomorrow. We're going to drop about 13 degrees for the high temperatures. We're only getting into the upper 70s. It will be cloudier. I don't think Saturday will be the best day to get outside because we also will be tracking some rain, mainly in the morning. But Sunday will start to dry things out, and I know that is Nick's pick. He's been talking about this, I feel like, for days, weeks, months, who knows, how excited he is about August 3rd. So current temperatures outside, 87. We have a few more hours until we hit 90, but heat index, it's still hot, as Nick mentioned. We're at 95 right now in Charlotte. You can very obviously see where some of that rain-cooled air happened in Monroe, Albemarle, over toward Rockingham, and Rock Hill still at 100. So we're still toasty. We're just not as bad as we were earlier this week. Today's impact when it comes to the heavy rain and localized flooding is going to be number 1. We'll also have the low risk at that, for some damaging wind gusts. 60 plus miles an hour is the official threshold for severe storms. We know when it comes to winds. based on what we've seen over the past few weeks, I feel like it's more likely to be closer to 40 to 50, which can cause some minor damage, especially in the mountains because of the terrain changes. But that'll be mainly tonight between 3 and 11 o'clock. Flash flooding, heavy rain, the big issue here today. And of course, that's going to be your number one storm impact. So flooding number one, winds number two, low risk for some small hail. Most of it over the last few weeks has been pea-sized. That happens a lot in the summer because we have less dry air in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, so you have more potential for smaller hail versus large hail like what we get during spring months. Lightning, pretty much a given. If you see lightning, you hear thunder, make sure that you are heading inside. Here's Doppler radar right now. You can see there are a few areas of rain, mainly storm activity moving into northern Caldwell County. Here's some action here north and west of Patterson. This is heading toward Gamewell, toward Lenore, toward Kings Creek. Moving relatively slow. It's mostly some light rain, or mostly heavy rain, a little bit of lightning. With these slow-moving storms, again, these are spots, especially in the mountains, because of the terrain changes, that we'll watch for that localized flooding risk. And then down very far south in southern parts of Chesterfield County, near Society Hill, Patrick, McBee, just around really North Hartsville area, we have a lot of heavy rain, some lightning, but again, nothing severe. As we progress through this evening, we know things are really going to start to bubble up around 6, 7, 8 o'clock. I do think we'll have a few storms that will linger even into 11 o'clock. Of course, Brad will be here tracking this during live weather impact, 6:30 to 7, and if there's any reason to keep going, he and I will both be here keeping an eye on things. Saturday morning, we'll see really, really dense cloud cover, patchy fog, some areas of light rain drizzle. It's the main reason why we're only expecting temperatures to reach the upper 70s, and then we'll dry things out heading into Sunday. We will see probably a few areas of light rain Sunday morning, but it's not going to be a complete day ruiner. Here's the overall weekend forecast. Expect more clouds and sunshine, but it'll be worth it for the fact that temperatures are only in the upper 70s and lower 80s, and even the overnight lows, especially Sunday morning and Monday morning, dropping into the upper 60s. Now, if it was March, I'd be a little bit upset about a low of 67, but I'm thrilled because we had many mornings in the mid to upper 70s over the past few weeks. In fact, it was the warmest month of low temperatures in history in Charlotte. We talk about this all the time in the weather world, but maybe not as much on WCNC Plus. But lows are actually warming at a faster rate than highs. And we talked a little bit, I know, Nick, during that first big heat wave about needing to cool off at night because it can impact your cardiovascular system and your respiratory system. But low temperatures actually warming at a much more rapid pace. It's not as cool to say a low of 75 versus a high of 95, but it actually is causing more impacts with the overnight temperatures compared to daytime, especially in the summer. So sometimes I feel like when we post warmest morning low, people are like, who cares? Well, we care because 1, it's a record. 2, it impacts people almost more than daytime highs when it comes to like letting your body kind of reset for the next day. And 3, what do you mean, no, who cares? If it's warmer at night, that means it gets warmer during the day because if the temperature warms the same and starts at 70 or 75, we get 90 or 95.
I think you saw this, but I gave Carlene a look when you were talking about Saturday, and she was like, "Wait, what? What did I do?" She knows what she did. Carlene's gonna be
supposed to go on a boat.
Tomorrow?
Brittany, I'm supposed to go on a boat tomorrow.
Have fun.
Are you saying I shouldn't go on a boat? I mean, I'm looking at it and I don't.
Okay, let's change the scenario. If I'm going on a boat tomorrow, how would you?
Change the scenario. You think that I care more about Carlene than you?
Yeah. I want you to give me the harsh criticism that you.
I mean, it's not going to rain all day, but I don't think an ideal boat day is cloudy with light rain almost all day.
It's not.
Yeah.
But I also don't have the keys to the boat, so I can't control.
Yeah. So
you know what I mean?
I was giving Carlene. I've been giving her.
You're just giving me a hard time about this boat day.
She's just trying to enjoy herself.
Oh, come on! I'm going to be on the boat. What do you say about that?
I would say the same thing.
Oh, okay, Brittany. All right.
Okay. Well.
All right, Brittany.
I'll try.
It's not an ideal boat day, but I mean, it could be worse.
It could be.
It almost always could be worse or it could be better. No matter what.
I don't know.
Weather, life.
I don't know who this Brittany is right now in the studio. This must be a different Brittany. This is not the Brittany I know.
It's like, when they talk about, you'll know I'm an imposter if. I feel like mine is always, I'm an imposter if I don't have a Diet Coke in my hand. Nick,
I don't see a Diet Coke.
That's true.
I don't see a Diet Coke. This is not the Brittany we know. Hopefully at 2:30 we get the Brittany that we know and that we love.
She'll be back.
And it's not as humid today in here, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's still humid outside.
We need to get the real Brittany. Is that cool?
You might get the real Brittany in the fall when it feels nice outside.
And I do want to add, Brittany will be here during our weather impact show at 6:30, tracking the potential storms and potential flooding, potential of some things, I should say.
Brad and I back together, dream team.
Dream team.
Tracking the storms.
Such a great show. James is going to be here too. James, I'm looking at James right now too.
That's why it's the dream team.
The dream
team.
team. The trifecta.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, Brittany will be back at 2:30 with another look at your forecast. Brittany, thank you for your time.
You're so welcome, Nick Sturdivant.
See, that may be the Brittany I remember. All right, so do you want to go back to downtown Greensboro? I know we have a couple of things coming up. Let's go back to downtown Greensboro. So again, State Senator Michael Garrett holding a press conference along with other senators, I should say Democratic senator, not just Democratic senators, but folks from Guilford County, a part of the North Carolina General Assembly, holding this press conference on behalf of Mohammed Nazer, who they say is wrongfully detained. Let's take a listen in. I believe it's still going on.
We're good on questions.
Looks like they're switching speakers again there. And again, that press conference is happening in downtown Greensboro. Not only do you have lawmakers, but you also have community leaders, community folk out there. I see faith leaders out there in downtown Greensboro. If you know anything about downtown Greensboro, this is right across the street, it looks like, from the International Civil Rights Museum there. So again, let's take a listen into what's being said.
The fact that
All right, so it looks like we might have lost some audio from that shot. You hear anything, Carlene? Looks like we lost some audio from that shot. So we'll shift away from that and let's go to the NTSB hearing that is happening right now in Washington, D.C. This is day 3 of the hearing. This is regarding the D.C. mid-air collision that happened 6 months ago. Investigators trying to get answers, pinpoint exactly what went wrong. Let's take a listen in.
So that would make that approach much more difficult. And why is that?
In terms of flying the approach or in terms of seeing the traffic?
How about flying the approach?
Yeah, in terms of flying the approach, they would have been flying, again, purely by reference to visual landmarks. There would not have been automation or navigational guidance for lateral or vertical flight path.
Correct. So they would have been spending more time making sure they had a stabilized approach, I would believe.
Yes, the pilot flying, which was the captain in this case, his primary thing would have been controlling the flight path of the aircraft by reference to those visual references. Like I mentioned, the pilot monitoring would have been acutely aware of stabilized approach criteria, helping the pilot flying by monitoring inside reference to the instruments.
Right. So flying that approach, I mean, normally at night going in somewhere or anywhere else, I assume your crews would like to have back up a visual approach with an instrument landing system. Is that correct?
Our policy is that if an ILS, for example, an ILS instrument approach is available, that even if they've accepted and are flying a visual approach, that they will back that up with an ILS.
Yeah, that's pretty much standard, I think, across most operators.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. We are about 10 minutes. I guess, you know what? I had a brain fart. I'm sorry, guys. I was about to say,
We're about
10 minutes away from
13 minutes away from 2 o'clock. We're so close to 2. We're so close to the end of the day, Nick. You just have to hang on.
I know. I'm sorry, guys. But on a much serious note, again, it happens here on Live Impact News. We're watching the NTSB hearing on the deadly D.C. collision. It's day 3 of that hearing. It's expected to wrap up today. Again, we've been taking this and we've been in and out on this for much of the stream. We're going to step away from that for just a moment. We want to go to a much lighter note. We want to talk about something that I know Carlene is excited about.
I get jazzed about it every year.
Carlene is excited about it. Parents are excited about it. Just everyday community folk excited about it. We're talking about tax-free weekend in South Carolina. We even got a theme song to it. Does it come with a chorus?
No, that's about as far as it goes. I'm sorry.
Okay. Can we get that one more time?
Tax-free weekend.
It's tax-free weekend, guys. Friday marks the beginning of a 72-hour tax-free holiday for certain items, I should say, in South Carolina. South Carolina's own.
Yeah, Anna King's a South Carolina girl. She knows what's up.
She's from South Carolina. She knows about this. Anna, you're in Fort Mill right now, tracking the 72-hour tax-free holiday. Walk us through it. Talk about what you're doing there and about this holiday.
Yeah, Nick, Carlene, I know all about this holiday. I'm actually excited to go shopping after we wrap up here, but we spoke to a ton of shoppers out here, some of which came across the border from North Carolina because, North Carolina does not have a tax-free weekend right now. So actually we spoke to Kid here behind me. The owner walked us through what they expect to see this weekend. She said they expect to see an influx of customers coming in, shopping, just because, like I said, North Carolina does not have this weekend, but so many parents want to come out here and save on clothing items, backpacks, just back to school supplies in general. So this is a very, very exciting weekend for shoppers, for parents, but also for local business here as well.
And I do have to ask, I mean, obviously this is not a new thing, but do businesses expect it to be busy? Like, is it still a big thing? I know we're doing a live shot and you're covering, but do families and students really still get excited about this?
This is a really big thing here. Like I said, we spoke to some shoppers actually from North Carolina who told us they cross the border every single year just to come here and save just a little bit. Anything goes a long way when it comes to shopping in general, but just to save on back to school supplies. Now, Fort Mill starts back on Monday, and then I'm pretty sure Charlotte starts back late August, but just a lot of parents wait to do their shopping this weekend to knock everything out because, like I said, a little bit can go a long way.
All right, and I'm going to let you go. I know you got some shopping to do and a story to put together for the newscast later.
I do.
Just make sure to get Carly and I something while you're out there, okay?
And you don't have to get me anything. I'm going to go myself, girl.
Okay.
There's Anna King live in Fort Mill. Thank you, Anna, for your time. Hey, Carly knows about it. We had a tax-free weekend for a little bit here in North Carolina.
Yeah. It's good. I mean, every little bit counts.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, especially right now, budgets are tight.
Budgets are tight. The price of things keep going up. I understand. So, again, it's a big deal. Folks are going to be out there in South Carolina getting their shop on. I don't blame them. And it's not just the kids in the classroom, but you got to think about the college kids
too, things for your dorms, sheets, towels, those sort of necessities. I mean, electronics,
that stuff adds up.
It adds up really quickly. So any little bit.
So be safe out there this weekend. So I always try to put that out there.
It's also just expect it's going to be busy.
It is going to be busy.
It's going to be busy. It's going to be busy in those school supply aisles. Your notebooks, pencil, it's going to be busy.
And with this, it really marks the return of students and teachers to the classroom, especially in South Carolina. Fort Mill, one of those schools. So our very own, my road dog, my co-anchor on the 4 p.m., Jay Monreal got a chance to sit down with Fort Mill's superintendent, Gray Young, sat down to preview the new school. It's first year leading the school district. This has been a thing for our area. Talking about new superintendents for school districts. So another new superintendent, Fort Mill, Gray Young. Let's take a listen to that and look into that sit down with Jay Monreal.
Gray Young.
Yes, ma'am.
Superintendent Young. How does that sound to you?
It sounds great. I love this community. I love this school district, and so I'm happy to lead these people here. Our school district was built upon our people and prioritizing people, prioritizing those relationships, and it's just such an honor to work alongside these people to do what's best for our students in the community.
What are you looking forward to most in this role?
I think just working alongside the people in Fort Mill. I mean, not just the people that work in the school district or the students that go to school here, or the parents and the families, but the community as a whole. They take pride in our school district. They've proved that over and over, withstanding the growth, unprecedented growth that we've had. So really just nurturing those relationships with everybody and prioritizing our students and their achievement.
You are one of the homegrown, right, at Fort Mill.
Yes,
so over the years, what are the lessons that you can take in what you've experienced that you're going to take into this academic year?
I think community. I think working hard. Good things happen when you work hard. And growing up in Fort Mill, everyone takes a lot of honor and value in the people and the students and their achievement. And I think just for me, it's about growing and getting better. We pride ourselves on being one of the top performing districts in South Carolina, but we have room to grow. So it's really looking for those things, ways to grow, ways to get better. Education is such a dynamic field. It's constantly growing, constantly evolving. So we don't have room to be stagnant in Fort Mill. We've got to continue to grow and get better.
Yeah, then what are the challenges specifically?
So the big one is growth, obviously. We're the fastest growing school district per capita in South Carolina. We're the smallest geographical school district in South Carolina, 53 square miles, which is very unusual to have this much growth in a small area. So I would say that's the big challenge moving forward. But again, our community has supported us over these last 25, 30 years, passing bond referendum after bond referendum. Our school board has supported us. We've had to increase taxes. And our community is standing by us with that because they want to provide the best education for our students. Second is teacher recruitment and retention. It's a national problem. I mean, we're one of the top 6% of places to teach in America. So even with that, we're still having problems, recruiting teachers. So we need to make sure that we're providing an environment for our teachers where they want to stay here when they get here. And then we also need to figure out ways to recruit. We need to come up with some solutions. We can recruit teachers. One of the ideas, we have many of our students that are graduating from our high schools that are going to college and going into teaching. So maybe we need to start recruiting them at an earlier time. So I would say teacher recruitment and retention is a big one. And then the third one is the achievement gap. Every school district in the country has achievement gaps. We have students that are not performing where they need to perform. We have a 95.8% graduation rate in Fort Mill, the highest in the state. But that means 4.2% of our students aren't graduating. So what are we doing with them? We want to improve our community and continue to have a great community. We need to make sure our students are graduating high school. We have students that are not performing. They're not meeting the standards on the state assessments. So what are we doing for them? We have to have targeted interventions. Even outside of academics, we got to find out why students are not involved in school if they're not in extracurricular activities. So we're going to do some studies there to see why students aren't involved. Is it because of transportation? Is it because they have to work after school? Is it because they're involved in something else after school? We don't know, but we know that involved students are happy students. We know that they perform better academically if they're involved. They attend school more often and they're better behaved.
How do you find the information to learn about where the gaps are, what these students are doing or not doing to be all that?
So we look at our test data, obviously. That's the most common way to look at the data, all of our assessment data. And then we actually we're going to contract with one of our former principals. He's going to come in and do the study on the involvement, the extracurricular activities, and he's going to look at every student who's not involved. He's going to do some small groups, some focus groups, and kind of find out what we can do to get them involved in school.
Let's go back to the teachers
Yeah.
being so attractive to work in Fort Mill. What do you attribute that to?
I think, again, I think our best recruiters are our current teachers because they love working here. We have great school administrators that work hard. Our teachers work hard, our support staff. Obviously, we want to continue to increase pay because they deserve to be paid more. So I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think it's just the environment and the culture that we have here, the family culture in Fort Mill. And I think our current teachers enjoy working here, so they're recruiting teachers from other districts as well.
For any prospective new teacher, what is your message to them? What do you want to say to them?
Enjoy it, love on kids, remember their why, remember why they got involved into this field. It's because they love working with young people. And there's tough days as teachers. Teaching, it's not an easy job, and you have to come to work every day and be on and be ready to give your students everything that you have. And that can be hard to do day in and day out, but if you remember why you got into this profession is because you love working with young people. That's why I got into the profession, and I think that's very important as they move forward.
To families and parents, what is your message to them, and what should they expect from each other with any changes here at the school district?
Absolutely. I think our families, they're so important. They're vital to the success of the student. So I think collaboration is the key. We've got to make sure that we're collaborating as families, students, teachers, administration. We're all collaborating to find the solutions that are best for their student. Every student has individual needs. We need to make sure that we're communicating with our families, working together to make sure that our students have everything they need to be successful.
We have to talk about AI. What are the plans? I mean, we can cover so much with just AI, and how do people start thinking about that, wrapping their heads around it?
It's kind of hit us in the face this last year, really.
Yeah, it really has.
I mean, it's really when I kind of started hearing about it. But AI is obviously the next new thing in technology. So we definitely want to learn and grow as much as we can with AI. We want to know how can it possibly help us as we educate our students, even as teachers and staff, but also help our students as they move forward.
Is it already built into the curriculum?
So we do have computer technology curriculum that is obviously addressing AI, but we're continuing to monitor that, and we're going to continue to educate our students and our staff on best practices with using artificial intelligence.
How about your thoughts on especially in light of so many lockdowns and other incidents around the country?
So I think we have great plans around that. I will say I enjoyed, this year I didn't know how it would go because we implemented it. We were one of the first school districts to implement it at the beginning of the year in South Carolina. So we implemented it right away. I was kind of nervous. I'm like, oh God, how's this going to go? We're going to have a lot of cell phone violations, and we had some. But it was interesting to see when you're walking around, especially the high schools, and like at lunch, for example, we used to allow cell phone use at lunch, but then they couldn't have them at school at all this year. So when they are not using cell phones, it was amazing to listen to the conversation going on in the classrooms. It was amazing to watch kids walk from class to class, talking, communicating with each other in the old-fashioned way like we used to. It's kind of exciting to see them have to use those communications. I think they're gaining valuable skills by not using their cell phones. And cell phones, obviously, there's some things that are great and we need to use, but I think in schools our students are really learning a lot by not having them. There's paying attention more, better behaved. And I think it cuts down some of the problems that we've had in schools in the past.
Along those same lines, when it comes to parents getting involved with their kids' education, what they're going through during the day, communication from teachers or the particular school or the school district to parents in a timely manner. What do you say? What do you have in the works?
I think the communication aspect of it's so important, and we always ask parents to call the school, You know, if there's any issues, make sure you're calling the school, talking to the teacher, talking to the administrators, just making sure that we're aware and we can work together. Kind of like we talked about earlier, our families are part of the solution to helping our students. So we need to make sure that we're collaborating, working together, and they do that by calling us, and if there's any issues, giving us an opportunity to address it.
Any other message you want to give students before their first day of school?
I just want to say, you know, work as hard as you can. You're going to do great things. We have wonderful students, wonderful families. Be all in with the Fort Mill School District. Our teachers and staff are amazing, and they're going to do everything they can to provide the resources for our students to be successful.
All right, congratulations again.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yep.
I do want to point out congratulations on the new school year. He's about to start. But Gray Young is a Clemson guy, Carlene Bragg.
Yeah, there's a lot of them here.
I'm just saying. I just want to. I don't. The theme today is me poking at Carlene.
That's what it seems.
I'm sorry.
We're all doing it.
It's just there. I got to. But back to school is here. Monday is a big day for a lot of students in South Carolina. Ready or not, you have to go back to school. Sorry. But the teachers, school districts are prepared, and parents are prepared for success for the school year for the students. So good luck to those kids out there that have to go back to school on Monday. It's going to be a great day for them and a great week, first week back. All right, we'll shift gears now. We want to bring back Julie Kay. She is here.
I never left, to be honest with you.
She really never left.
I just linger here. Yeah.
So let's roll it out. So Julie is covering another story about an energy bill, and so again, let me lay it out for you. So your Duke Energy bill could look different. This is after a veto override this week here in North Carolina, and the new law eliminates a requirement for Duke Energy to lower carbon emissions. Look, Democrats, Republicans, they both are disagreeing on.
Shocker.
Yeah. Which is, shocker in all of this. So break this down. Again, this was something that was introduced, passed, vetoed by Governor Josh Stein. His veto overwritten.
Mm-hmm. Now we're here. So this bill is really interesting because it does multiple things. So you mentioned the requirement that goes away for Duke Energy. Remember, a few years ago, the General Assembly said by 2030, Duke Energy needs to reduce their carbon emissions by 70% compared to 2005. Duke Energy had already said, we can't really meet that goal, so it had been extended a little bit. But this now law gets rid of that entirely. They don't have to come up with another goal until 2050. So that pushes it back really, really far, and there's no word yet on what that goal would even be. Interestingly, though, it also allows Duke Energy to start charging ratepayers, for new plants that have not finished construction yet. So that's really interesting. It's not the first state to do that. We're not the first. Other states, South Carolina has done that, but that's a controversial thing for sure because there's no promise that there have been plants in other states that have not been finished. And so taxpayers or ratepayers are being charged kind of ahead of time before that's even built. Now, you mentioned the disagreement between Democrats and Republicans. Not surprising, but I think what's really interesting here is they don't disagree necessarily about the goal. They disagree about what this bill is going to do. Everyone says they want to lower rates naturally.
Right.
Republicans say this will lower rates because you're not imposing these regulations and restrictions that we, quote unquote, as Republicans, see as bad and see as something that hinders Duke from being able to do what they need to do to lower rates. On the other hand, Democrats say putting this into law will actually raise rates because this puts the risk on consumers as opposed to Duke in terms of fuel. We know that fuel is not something that is the most steady in terms of how much it costs, but it is trending upwards. So there's been multiple studies that say different things about how much this is going to cost. So the answer is we know that it will probably change your Duke Energy bill if you live in North Carolina.
Yeah.
We just don't know how yet.
And it's just interesting because of the timing, because a lot of folks, you're seeing your bill increase because of the amount of energy folks are using. It's hot outside.
It's real hot.
So I just think it's very interesting because of the timing of all this, and folks are already starting to see more, spending more on their energy bill. Again, Julie hasn't left. She's been covering a couple of stories so far. When can folks check out this story this afternoon?
This story will be on at 6.
At 6 o'clock, but Julie is working around the clock. She's live at 4 and 5. right, for
You know
city
what?
council.
The way
Charlotte.
that I don't even know. I think I'm at 4 for
I know
city council.
Julie has a lot on her plate today. 4 and 5 on Charlotte City Council changes. We talked about that a little earlier, and then 6 o'clock on this energy bill here in North Carolina, the veto override.
Yes.
On that one, Julie, thank you for your time. It's Friday. I could say Happy Friday to you.
Yes.
Happy Friday, Julie.
Happy Friday.
All right, let's shift gears now. Again, you can catch Julie at 4, 5, and 6 when it comes to politics here, not only in Charlotte but statewide. Let's turn back now to Washington, D.C., where the NTSB hearing is underway. Again, really trying to get down to the bottom of this deadly collision that happened 6 months ago at DCA Airport in Washington, D.C. This day 3 of the hearing. Let's take a listen in.
Started with it that way. I think it was indicated it might have been about 4.9 seconds.
4.7.
4.7. How far is an aircraft going to travel in that 4.7 seconds? It's on an approach.
Calculate.
Somebody's going to get a calculator out here in a second, aren't they?
Yeah, I think aircraft on approach speed are about 2.5 to 3 miles per minute, around there. So if somebody wants to do the math.
Nobody wants to do it. I'm trying to get to, we saw some simulations earlier where there would have been 10, 15 potential. Yes, sir.
I'll make clear I didn't make this in my head, but we talked about it last night. For a helicopter, which is relatively slow, it's on the order of 200 meters in that period of time. So going at about 70 to 90 knots.
And that's going to be roughly half the speed of an aircraft, right? 120, 130, right in there. So not going to take. I go back to the simulations that were done earlier, Mr. Susky, and we talked about how many feet. With the current limitations in regard to the radar scopes, that what the tower is seeing, given enough, would that give enough time for an air traffic controller to literally make that adjustment? We were talking about technology, but I'm talking about the air traffic controllers. Do they see information quick enough to make last-minute changes that are necessary based upon what's operating in their environment?
I apologize. I can't speak for what the tower or the controller would have saw.
Anyone on the panel?
I'm sorry, Mr. Emmett, can you ask that question just one more time for me? I want to make sure I try to address it for you from an air traffic controller perspective.
Yeah, and I apologize. It's more about, we have some amazing technologies that are getting into the airplanes, but yet on the ground, it's still 4.7 seconds to be able to get those technologies, whether it's ADSB. We know the limitations of ground sweep radar, and in the TRACONs, it's actually much bigger and much longer for the sweeps. Is the adoption of that technology in the airplanes going to overtake what's in the tower?
I think with ADSB in and with the TCAS updates that we're talking about, I do think it'd be much better shared situational awareness that's going in on the flight deck. Controllers are somewhat hampered by the time that it takes for the radar feed to hit the aircraft, the mode C interrogator, come back, give us an altitude reading. It's going to take a few seconds for that. A controller wants to be able to be proactive in every single instance. So anything that we have that gives us better information real time would be better, but we are somewhat hampered by the lag time that it takes to get the radar feed back. Now keep in mind the tower controller is also looking out the windows and should be visually acquiring what's going on.
I'll go back to that one in the next round. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. And just to clarify, Member Graham had asked about conflict alerting, but in fact our research and engineering team is looking at running some studies and simulations on what would have been seen or not seen had the helicopter been transmitting ADSB out and the CRJ having ADSB in. My question for the captain is, and where I am looking at, is there was so much offloading on runway 33 and so much discussion of offloading on runway 33, especially this night in all the interviews. And so the offloading of runway 33, because they were getting stacked up, whether technology could help improve the spacing, improve consistency or precision in miles and trail. And so that's why I would like you to talk a little bit more on precision and consistency there. When I saw your technology, and I'm not a commercial pilot, but I have a Subaru, and when I said level 2, it's better. I'm kidding. When I set level 2 technology, right, and for people who are not pilots, they might be unable to understand this. When I set level 2 technology, and I set my, you have that or no? I have better technology than you. Aha. So auto cruise control, auto steer, it follows another car in front of me. And if that car slows down, so does my car. And it has spacing. I can say, well, I want 3 car lengths in front of me, I want 5 car lengths in front of me, and I can program it. And I can go 50 miles, which is what I would normally do, without ever touching anything, except for the steering wheel that I have to keep my hands on. And it's pretty similar. Because for you, you would punch in 80 seconds, you would designate an aircraft that you want to essentially follow, and it would keep you at a certain command speed, correct?
Correct.
There we go. So the pilot, how long was the pilot? What years? The pilot program.
I'm sorry. Yes, the pilot program was a 2-year program.
What years?
It ended a few months ago.
Few months ago.
Yeah.
And what's the status now? It's not continuing. Well, let me actually back up. What were some benefits that there were some reports that came out of it and some analyses? What were some of the benefits? How about with situational awareness?
So our pilots, we had our Airline of Pilots Association interview the pilots. We also had forums. We had everything to figure out, okay, exactly how do the pilots like this technology? And to 100% of the time, when asked, does this technology in the flight deck increase safety? The answer was absolutely.
And with respect to go-arounds, you briefly said it could reduce go-arounds.
Yeah, so I have anecdotal data, and that's about the best we can get, unfortunately, because we're not sure what caused it. But I've had many pilots approach me and say, I could see that my rate of speed was much faster than the aircraft in front of me. We also have altitude differences, and so all of that information they could bring in, and there were a few times that, especially with the check airman, they would show the pilot and they would query the ATC saying, hey, I'm going too fast. And ATC would come back and say, speed at your discretion. And they avoided the go-around.
And it improves safety to avoid go-arounds.
100%.
And what is most people, I think, in the public think that the biggest reason for go-arounds is you're going to hit something that something is a conflict on the runway. What is probably the biggest reason on go-arounds that you've experienced?
It's typically a conflict. I'm too close.
Yeah, you're too close. Okay, great.
I have no further in this round.
Member Inman.
Thank you. For PSA, I guess I'm kind of curious. We've talked about this now being this collision avoidance systems being critical to your safety. You monitor that very closely. I think you mentioned you have a 97% compliance with RAs. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Are there times whenever your pilots are not getting RAs because of equipment malfunctions?
We don't get RAs when RAs are inhibited by design and if the TCAS equipment is not operating, correct?
I guess my question is, what is your standard for whether, can your airplanes fly without TCAS?
Yes, sir.
One flight, two flights? I mean, because it's a critical safety system. How many flights will your airplanes fly without TCAS?
So I believe that's in our MEL program, and that is an
And
FAA.
MEL is?
I'm not sure. I don't have it. Oh, for the
acronym.
Minimum equivalent list.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, and so that's I don't have the MEL up in front of me, and that is an FAA approved thing, often based on a master MEL.
And I'll ask my technical panel to correct me, but I believe it's 3 days. Everyone on the front, the technical experts are shaking their head. Is that correct?
That's correct.
But you could actually do better than that, couldn't you? I mean, that's the minimum, right? So I'm going to ask the technical panel, is it safe for a commercial aircraft to be flying in the national airspace, as we've talked about the importance of this, and not have TCAS working in the plane for 3 days? That could be, I don't know how many flight cycles, but I would say it would be possibly 20, 30 flights. This is for the FAA.
I mean, all I can say is it's safer with TCAS. Safety is not a binary, but certainly I think a flight is safer when the TCAS is operating. So.
And so right now it's determined, is that flight standards? Who makes that determination that it can fly for 3 days without TCAS?
I believe that's the Flight Standards Office.
Mr. McIntosh, you know anyone over there?
I do know someone over there.
Do you think you could make a call and ask a question?
Yes, sir, I can.
Thank you. I just think it's kind of concerning when we start to read about some of these activities. We talk about the importance, and everyone's shaking their head and agreeing. We all know it's a problem, but nobody wants to say, I'm the one that can fix it.
Yeah, I will say this. I do believe, first and foremost, I trust our controllers to get people where they're going. But having additional layers of safety is vital to ensuring that we continue moving the needle and trying to be the safest airspace in the world.
Totally agree with you. I think there's some great controllers out there. There's some good people in DCA. But let's talk about, since you brought it up, let's talk about controllers in general. And right now, the FAA has an advisory that says pilots, and I think Alpa brought this up, you shall comply with any type of RA. Is that correct? That's what the manual was that they brought up earlier. You shall have compliance with all RAs, right?
From the controller perspective?
It's a FAA standard.
You referring to the AC that Alpa was showing?
Yes, sir.
I forget what was showing there, but for compliance in the U.S., the pilots are allowed to visually acquire the aircraft, and if they deem it not to be a threat, pilots do not have to comply with the RA.
Okay.
But they should not maneuver counter to an RA, and if they're not going to comply and it's in the direction of counter, they should turn it to TA only.
And just save a couple of seconds. I'm going to go back to Mr. McIntosh. If a pilot gets a conflicting message immediately from a controller versus a TCAS, which one takes precedence?
So a controller will not interfere with a pilot performing a TCAS RA.
How would a controller know that the RA, how do they know which RA they're getting?
The pilot would respond on frequency, we're getting a TCAS RA, and the controller allows the pilot to make whatever maneuver is necessary, but we do not give counter instructions or counter clearances. There's a very clear case study that happened over in Europe where a controller did give counter clearances, and it actually resulted in a fatality. So that is something we do not do.
Okay. Let's see, I'm over time.
All right. Back to you, Captain. Correction, you have the technology not just on your NEOs, all A321s?
Correct, all 321s.
Okay, thank you very much. The analysis that was done afterward, there were some studies. I like to. We think all life is priceless, and which is why we often get from regulatory agencies, we can't do something because it costs too much. What sort of cost savings did you see in some of the analysis?
So we saw a reduction in time, first and foremost, 40 miles in. We've seen an improvement in what we call our B0 block times. So those are all cost savings.
How many more planes could you get in per hour, per one-way?
According to the study, they said approximately 5 aircraft per runway.
How about fuel savings?
Fuel savings, we didn't look at that per se, as time is more valuable because it includes fuel and costs of crew. There's a lot involved with the time. So,
okay, I'll look at the presentation that's in the docket. I think there's a number on fuel savings, so I'll come back to that.
I do think the FAA might have done that, but American on their own did not.
Oh, right. Do you know what that was?
I can't remember, sorry.
Do you know, Mr. McIntosh?
I'm not sure of the...
That's okay. I'll look at it when we go back to Member Inman. So the status is the pilot's not ongoing. It ended. FAA either didn't have additional funding or doesn't have it. Is that correct, Mr. McIntosh?
As far as why we stopped the trial?
Yes.
So my understanding is that we did work this with American Airlines. The decision was made mostly because of budget, but because the bigger concern was through most of the study there was an efficiency case versus a safety case, but also taking a look at needing more equipage for aircraft. Because to what you're pointing out via the slide presentation that showed the Eagle arrival via the slider fix, it's great that we can run 81-second intervals, but for controller workload, you want to make sure that you have more aircraft that can actually do that. One of the biggest things that really tie up a controller that makes us busy is compression on final. As Captain Surge was alluding to and actually said, as aircraft go down with less headwinds and they start pulling back on the speeds, you start getting compression. And centers have to feed a TRACON a certain amount of miles in trail, and then a TRACON's got to feed the tower a certain miles in trail to make sure that they're successful. It's the compression piece that actually will start bringing those aircraft closer in.
Right.
And we feel IM will help us with that.
Okay. Captain, anything more on this that you want to highlight? I think you didn't. I think there was another phase to this that was planned, but
correct.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that at all?
Sure. Yeah, so what we did in our first phase was, our first year was to look at the technology in and of itself, some of the algorithms that we saw, and also pilot controller behavior. What we did in the second year is we refined what we found in the first year and learned, grew off of what we did. What we wanted to do in the third year is we wanted to look at how we could space the aircraft, do a variable spacing with the aircraft so the terminal, so now we want to go into the terminal environment so that the terminal initial controller could it would give that controller an easier way to feed two class streams and to sequence them. So we were unable to do that because of the funding issue.
Okay, great. Thank you. Member Inman.
Chair Hammondy, the FAA study that you referenced over here,
yes.
It's estimating $1.8 billion per year in cumulative benefit to industry, $500 million of which is direct reduction in fuel burn.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Member Inman.
You're done? No. Okay, sorry. I'm just making sure. Okay. Okay. I'll go back to Mr. McIntosh, and again, I'll understand we actually have, NACTA is one of the parties, and they're here. Suddenly they're going to look up from their phones real quick. The adoption of this technology into these airplanes, is the relationship with NACTA beneficial? Are they supportive? Is it an inhibitor to getting better technology in the airplanes or in the cab?
For obviously NACA's here, but we have a wonderful relationship with our NACA partners, and we have collaborated on a lot of these test phases and which facilities are going to do them, and making sure that we work it together. TBFM, time-based flow metering, is another one that if you were to stack that with IM, which you probably big benefits. But we do work that and identify facilities that are in need, and work together to make sure that it's rolled out correctly.
Do you know if they have an opinion, or have they voiced an opinion regarding time-based flow management or any of these technologies?
I've worked this directly with the Chief of Staff of NACA, specifically for DCA, and he was very supportive.
Okay. I just go back because at one point, as we understand it, NACA was very, let's just say, opposed to TCAS in airplanes. Do you remember that time?
I don't.
Anybody else from the panel?
It was before my time.
Okay. Well, I'm looking back to their position and policy statements of September 2004, that they are strongly opposed to any FAA policy that requires pilots operating the U.S. air traffic control to comply with RAs received from the current TCAS system that's inconsistent with current ATC clearance. I only bring it up. That position probably has changed. I think it was dropped a couple of years after that. But I'm asking now, is there any opposition to technology advancements that you see from other parties outside of your organization that are inhibiting us to be able to get this implemented?
Not that I've seen or witnessed, no.
Okay. Do you have any other barriers beyond your labor relations? Do you have barriers in regard to procurement? Because we've looked at TCAS 3 and that attempt. It appears that the private sector is going at a better pace or a faster pace than the government is. And sometimes that's good. I realize you need harmonization, but what are your barriers in being able to get this technology into commercial aircraft or anyone operating in the NAS?
From the air traffic perspective, I would look towards our AVS partners to see if there's any issues with the rulemaking or anything along that line. There's got to be a safety case, I'm sure. But I believe everyone's on the same page that we want advancement in technologies to make us safer NAS.
So I'll go down through the other FAA. What barriers? Everybody's got to have a gripe. Now's your chance.
Well, one of the barriers was discussed earlier where this is international. So Europe had a rule which exclusively called out TCAS version 7.1. So that was the only TCAS system allowed in their airspace. So it takes international coordination to change the rule, and some of that is what has held up XA getting into being introduced in the airspace. So it's elements like that. It's international standardization.
And as we go to that, I'm going to bring up a different aspect. It was mentioned earlier, especially by the Army, spoofing and jamming on certain signals is a real threat, and it's still a real threat currently, not only in other places of the world, but I think in the U.S. Is that an accurate description? Sorry.
Spoofing is something we're worried about, but I would say even more important or more worrisome is the fact that everything is open source, and beyond the FAA's ground station, TSB or otherwise, there's thousands of commercially available, anybody in their backyard can have a receiver to get that information and do whatever they want with that information.
And I only bring it up that it appears CISA, which is the Security and Infrastructure Security Agency for the U.S. government, it was about, I believe, 7 days before this crash, had actually disclosed a flaw in collision avoidance systems, specifically TCAS version 7.1 and before. Is that been completely addressed from the FAA technical review?
So I can address that a little bit. So CISA identified basically two flaws, one of which is the capability for someone on the ground to control the TCAS unit, change the settings, put it into standby even. That's something we've known about for a long time, and we've addressed that in ACAS XA. We
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertivant. Right now, you're watching live as the NTSB hearing continues on that deadly D.C. collision 6 months ago. Today is day 3 of that hearing. Expected to wrap up today. It's been going on all day there. Up top is a look at the radar. We are staying alert weather alert this evening for storms and flooding. Below that is a live look at the New York Stock Exchange. Stocks taking a hit after tariffs. President Donald Trump's tariff go into place today. So again, we're going to keep an eye on that. But again, we want to let you know that, again, we are staying weather alert this evening for the potential of storms and flooding, because, it could get ugly outside this evening. Brittany Van Voorhees joins us now. She's back here in studio with us. Brittany.
Nicholas.
Is this the Brittany that that we all know and that we all love? Oh yeah, it is. Diet Coke.
Hashtag
Diet
not
Coke.
an ad.
Brittany, what you're going to be here at 6:30. You're here right now tracking the forecast, but you're going to be here at 6:30 for the show, keeping an eye as this stuff moves in, right?
Yes. Brad will be here too.
Brad will
Don't
be
worry.
here. I'm sorry,
Don't
Brad
worry.
will be here too.
Our fan of bitches. Brad will be here, but we'll be here together. Yes, because we have the potential for just slow-moving storms that could create pockets of heavy rain, which again eventually can result in localized flooding. Now, temperatures, of course, before we get to this flooding, really, really toasty outside. It still is very hot. We're at 89 right now in Charlotte. We will hit 90 before the end of the day, so making it our 4th longest 90-degree-plus streak in history, in recorded history in Charlotte. Of course, it's still toasty outside. Still feels like 98 degrees in Charlotte. We're still feeling like 100 degrees in Rock Hill, 102 in Lancaster. But of course, we've been on a downward trend over the past few days because of not only more clouds, but also not as much sunshine, kind of beating down on us, and more storms, which has been a little bit better. Today, before we talk about the flooding, I do want to mention that we could have some gusty winds, 60+ miles an hour. That, of course, is going to be on the higher end. Most of the storms that we have this time of year in Charlotte are more so 40 to 50. So the way we classify that is strong storms versus severe storms. So again, it's all relative, right? Flash flood risk is going to still be number one. Biggest impact today between 3 to 11 p.m. Mainly 3 to 11 because that, of course, is for most of the metro of Charlotte, which means, again, earlier storms in portions of the mountains possible, maybe a few lingering storms past 11 for areas in the Sandhills. Again, flash flooding, heavy rain, slow-moving thunderstorms is the biggest impact. Best thing to do is stay weather alert, have multiple ways to get warnings, and of course, remember, especially when it comes to driving in and around the Charlotte area tonight, if you ever encounter a flooded roadway, make sure you are turning around, not drowning. We say this all the time, but unfortunately, when you see flash flooding impacts, one of the big weather-related killers is people inside of cars, because you drive around a barricade or you drive into a roadway that's washed away, a bridge that's washed away, so please just keep that in mind. I don't think this is going to be widespread severe flooding, anything of course like what we had in Texas a few weeks ago, and of course North Carolina near the Raleigh-Durham area during Chantal, but it is going to be a lot of heavy rain locally for us here in Charlotte, and much more rain than we've had as of late. So flooding still number one, winds number two, areas of lightning, and some small hail. Now, we are tracking some areas of storms, again, already starting to pop up. There is a severe thunderstorm warning in southern Virginia right now that's near Martinsville. As we zoom in a little bit closer to home, you can see most of the storms popping up now are in portions of either the foothills or starting to creep into areas closer to the I-40 corridor and south. So right now, northern Cleveland County, we have some heavy rain, not a ton of lightning, but certainly some gusty winds possible between 30 to 40 miles an hour. And then as we take a trek a little bit further up, across portions of Burke County as well as Caldwell County, you can actually see some of these lightning strikes are getting a little bit stronger here just south and west Caldwell County, between essentially Morganton and Lenoir. That's kind of hugging State Road 70 up towards State Road 64, so just be mindful of that. I do want to point out that this particular area right here, kind of on the border between Caldwell and Burke County, has about 23 lightning strikes within the last few minutes. That is not actually a ton of lightning, but when you start to see an increase in lightning, sometimes that means that the storm is strengthening, so it's something that we watch for. And then really, you go from our northwestern counties and you have to travel all the way to our southeastern counties, getting closer to Chesterfield County, right here on the edge between Chesterfield County, near Hartsville, Society Hill, Darlington area. So this is Darlington County as you're getting if you're trying to go, cross the interstate toward Myrtle Beach, you would obviously have to go through these areas if you were in Chesterfield. So we have McBee, Patrick, seeing some heavy rain there. And again, it is kind of taking more of an explosive route right over these areas. So essentially between Florence and Shira. Well, what about the rest of the day? Well, things are going to get stronger, more widespread before they get better. I do think most of the Charlotte area will dry out by about 10 o'clock. Again, a few lingering showers afterwards for other portions of the region, but I think most of the metro is clear by then. Tomorrow morning, it's still going to be pretty muggy out there, so I wouldn't expect it to feel cool tomorrow morning, but it is going to be cloudy for the majority of the day. We'll see off and on rain. Light rain for the most part, kind of that patchy light rain, drizzle, patchy fog. So not the best day to get outside, but at least it won't be downpours, and at least it won't be significantly hot and humid with temperatures only reaching the upper 70s. Clouds start to break apart a bit heading into Sunday, but we're still going to be pretty cloudy outside. Temperatures won't be quite as cool as what we'll see on Saturday, but especially Sunday morning and Sunday night will also feel some slightly cooler air. Again, so cooler is relative, but we've been in the mid to upper 70s, so upper 60s to mid 60s is going to feel really, really nice. So clouds, areas of rain Saturday, and then about 20% chance of a brief shower or two on Sunday, highs around 80. So we went essentially from 10 plus degrees above average with multiple days in a row of 100 degrees plus to now dropping to about 10 degrees below average. So our average is 90. This weekend we're at 77 and 80 respectively. We'll kind of teeter-totter back and forth between the mid 80s for most of next week, but at least as of now, we have a pretty, again, cool again is relative, but we have a pretty, I would say, below average stretch over the next week. Other than today, there's no days, at least in the 7-day forecast, that temperatures get anywhere close to 90. But by the end of the 7 to 10 day, we know eventually things will get hotter before they get cooler, because it is August 1st, which does mean that we're past the hottest month typically of the year in Charlotte, which is July. But that does not mean that you won't see many more 90-degree days before fall arrives. So.
Brittany, I will take that all day. That cooler stretch.
too.
Again, it's relative, but I'll take that stretch.
Yeah, it's all relative to the time of year.
Yeah.
Because if it was, this in July feels great, but if it was April, we would not be pleased.
Right. All right, Brittany. And again, Brittany will be back. You'll see her during our regular evening newscast, but she will be back here on WCNC Plus for the weather impact stream starting at 6:30, tracking these storms as they move into our area, as she continues to do. Brittany doing a great work. Thank you, Brittany, for your time.
Thank you, Nick. You're doing a great job as well.
Thank you, Brittany. I appreciate that. All right, let's turn now to Texas, where Texas Governor Greg Abbott is speaking right now. He's signing into law that would make schools phone free, and an issue that we've talked about here in North Carolina and South Carolina as well, just to make that connection. He's in Amarillo, Texas. Let's take a listen into what the governor in Texas is saying.
A social media post coming in, whatever the case may be. It does just require that undivided attention, and that means that the students will be learning more in every class that they have.
And do you believe that 1481 will help support student safety and school safety as well?
It does. Both of them work towards that, because part of the safety is getting kids away from things that would be occurring over the course of social media that could either cause them to overreact to a situation or could lure them into an endangered situation. And we want to protect children from any types of those encounters. And so I think both pieces of legislation not only help students be better students, but also safer students.
More questions?
Why do you think it's so important to give our local school districts, the power to determine their own policies under this 1481 bill?
Well, the governor also mentioned this earlier. Texas is not a one-size-fits-all. And so when you look at legislation, Texas is so diverse. The Panhandle versus your urban areas are very, very different. And we want to allow school districts to implement the policy that they see best fit for their kids. The principle of the bill is the phones do not need to be out to have a distraction during the class day and during instructional time. And so we believed when we crafted this legislation with the help of Chairman Buckley and the Speaker to be sure that we allowed as much local control so that in that community we allowed them to craft policies that were best for the parents and the students and the educators.
Great. You have a question? Go for it.
Thank you, Governor. And I don't have much of a question, but I have a thank you for you and Caroline, because I spoke on this bill. My name is Castaneda Fitzpatrick. I am a 14-year survivor of sexual exploitation. Because of signing this bill, I just wanted to say, they got me when I was 10 years old. So when I went to the senator and I went and spoke on this bill and testified on this bill, and I know there's a lot of children in this room, but I am what your child can become. So I want to thank you, Governor, for protecting our children, because I don't want another child to have to go through what I went through at the age of 10 years old, and I was out there for 31 years. And thank you. I'm glad to be in this room, and I want to give you a personal gift, you and Caroline. It's a copy of my book. It's called 31 Years in the Desert. Because when my mother let go of me when I was 10 years old, that's when the streets grabbed a hold to me. I was trapped in a house for 2 weeks when my traffickers did whatever they wanted to do with me. I lost my childhood. And there's so many children in this room, and I don't want anything ever to happen to them or for them to live the life that I had to live at a young age. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your help.
She highlighted something that we talked about but must be doubled down on. When a child goes onto a social media site, when they start chatting with someone, it may seem like it's harmless. It may almost seem like they're developing a friend. But it could be that it really is a predator. Predators are so savvy, and they can suck a young child into a compromised situation that child may not be able to get out of. And I wish you were the only example of the story that existed. But the fact of the matter is, you well know, there are so many others like you who got trapped into a situation beyond their control, especially at a young age. Thank you for your testimony. Thank you for what you did in the session to help this bill become a reality. Thank you all. God bless you all. And God bless our great state.
All right, so you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. That is Governor Greg Abbott there in Texas, in Amarillo, Texas, signing the phone-free school law into effect. It looks like he's there at a local high school there in Amarillo, Texas, as they celebrate the signing of this new law. All right, that camera looks like it's adjusting and moving, and we're going to adjust and we're going to move along, James. So it is Friday, and Panthers are back in camp today after taking a day off. Panthers Fan Fest is tomorrow at Bank of America Stadium as they continue practice there. But on that day off, Panthers quarterback Bryce Young got a chance to speak with teens about mental health. His parents are there. His dad is a therapist, works in the mental health realm. Bryce Young has been a champion of mental health since his time here in Carolina. And again, speaking to teens about it, he got a chance to talk to our very own Danielle Stein. We also got to hear from Bryce's parents about the significance of this and what this means for the community. Let's take a listen in.
I'll kick us off. We just had a great conversation with Dr. Cam and Bryce over with the teens and the young adults here at the center. So talked about pressure growing up and all of the challenges you face in any stage in your life. So you guys are able to ask questions to both of them, and then we can see if we'll do. We have time for one-on-ones after, but you guys can take it away. All right.
Yeah, of course.
Bryce, what's the message that you wanted the kids to take away from this?
Yeah, just to I think just want to be able to give perspective and to have conversations. But first off, they asked a ton of amazing questions, which was always really cool and really engaging. I wanted to share a little bit with myself and just want to make everyone more comfortable having those conversations. Everyone's it's okay to be good. It's okay not to be okay. So, but I think just sharing experience, sharing stories is something that I believe holds a lot of power. I certainly learned a lot from today. Hopefully, I was able to give people here something. But just being able to share experience, share knowledge, share things, I think was ultimately the goal.
Working with kids and working with the younger generation seems to be quite important to you. Why is that?
I just believe that it's important for the future of this community of us as people just investing into the youth, and also for me, I feel obligated. I'm super blessed, super grateful just to be in the position I am. And that comes with responsibility. I want to be able to use the platform I have for better. I want to be able to impact the community in a positive way. I want to be able to give back whenever I can. I feel like that's, I'm abundantly blessed in my own life. So I feel like that's a calling for me, and I'm very grateful for Bojangles and Hopeway for making that possible today. It really means a lot to myself, to my foundation, and my family.
In a similar vein, you're in the middle of training camp, you have very few days off, and you're spending it here. How special and important is it for you to be able to do this in the little time off that you have?
Yeah, honestly, this is something that I really enjoy doing. It's great for me. One, I enjoy hearing from the youth. Enjoy hearing what they have to say. Enjoy answering their questions. And also, it's super humbling for me. It's great for me mentally. It centers me being able to have conversations. It's great. Obviously, right now in camp, there's a ton going around. There's it's a lot of moving parts. But for me, being able to do something that I really enjoy, to be able to do something I'm passionate about on my off day, I know it's going to help me tomorrow. I'm going to have more gratitude with football too. So all around, I'm very grateful for it.
If I could ask, Doctor, will you pronounce your last name for me one more time?
Sure, Dr. Karosky-Mazie.
Dr. Karosky-Mazie. From your perspective, one, I'm curious of what's different in the approach when you are dealing with this age group, or working with, I think is a better word, and the impact of Bryce also lending his voice in these conversations.
I think kids are scared to open up about the challenges that they're having, and so to make it normal to talk about mental health challenges is really important. Just as if kids have cancer or diabetes or a broken arm, it's okay to have ADHD or anxiety or to be struggling. And the more we can normalize the conversation, the better for our kids. They'll feel safer to share what they're going through, and I think looking at somebody like Bryce is just so amazing, because then they know they're not alone, and like even somebody like him can have bad days or have struggles that need to be processed. So I think it's just awesome to kind of break down those barriers and to normalize the conversation around mental wellness.
To that end, professional athletes have this aura of invincibility, right? So how much more impactful is that message when it comes from a professional athlete saying like, hey, it's okay to need help?
I think it's so important because all of our families struggle with mental health issues, whether it's addiction or trauma or anxiety, depression. And when it comes from an athlete that's so seen as so strong physically, knowing that we all need to take care of our mind and we all need to work on our wellness, whether that's physical and or mental wellness, it's just very important. And I think, kids look up to you and they listen to you, and sometimes they don't listen to us as parents or even as doctors. And so the more we can just have everybody on the same page, sharing the same message about the importance of taking care of yourself mentally and physically, the better for these kids. And I think the fact that you do that so well and with such humility really speaks a lot to them.
Bryce, if I could ask, what helps you to become comfortable being transparent and vulnerable in LA?
Yeah, I was super grateful to have the background and the family that I do. My dad's in the mental health. Always been. He's a therapist and is done a lot of things in mental health and has worked in there my entire life. My mom, being a teacher, obviously there's so much carryover. So from a young age, I was just being able to super grateful to be able to be in a household where it was talked about and it was discussed. And I think just growing up and continuing on through life, being able to have conversations with other people, seeing how, especially being now in the NFL and in college, everyone has such different backgrounds and everyone's from all over the country and has such different experiences, but there's so many similarities, so many common emotions and feelings, and the power of just sharing in conversation I felt it tenfold, especially the further and further away I've gone from home and grown up and branched out. So I think it's something that's just continued to advance and develop throughout my life.
Bryce, do you have any memories with growing up with your parents in the professions that they're in that have kind of maybe clicked on, why mental wellness is something that's important to you? Because I know as a kid you might be like, oh, that's all right, I'm over it, or I'm too cool for it, but it seems like it's something that you really embraced early.
Yeah, 100%. There's a ton of things. I think especially through sports, is always one of the biggest things. I think they always stressed about wanting it to be fun and trying to do everything I can to find the joy in it, and making sure that it was part of my life, and that I had other priorities and other things, and making sure that I was a well-rounded person. And I think as a kid, it was like, of course, how could football ever not be fun? You just run around and play with your friends. And then, obviously, football is super fun and it's a great game, and I love it. But obviously, the more you play and the deeper you go, there's a lot more that comes into it that can take away from just the football part, and it becomes a business and becomes other things. And in the same way, it's like, oh, of course, like I have to go to school, and of course I have whatever other hobbies. Of course, football is just a part of things, and then when football becomes your job, and it's all that people see you as, then you're like, oh, okay, I'm glad that I had that message, because it's something that you have to hold on to a lot later on in life.
Bryce, when you're in settings like this and you're talking to kids, how much of your story do you feel compelled to share? Whether that's, what you had to overcome in college, people saying, like, I don't know, all the noise that you had to block out, whatever. How much of your story do you feel compelled to share with?
Yeah, I definitely, for me, again, I enjoy giving back and sharing and talking, but also, again, it does help me. The more I'm able to have conversations and connect with the youth, it's great for myself as well. It's something I'm passionate about, and I enjoy doing it. Any time that I can share something that helps the conversation, helps them, if there's a question asked, whatever it may be, I always want to be vulnerable. I always want to give the truth, because I believe that can be powerful. I think everyone's truth is powerful, especially to the right audience. So it's definitely something I enjoy doing.
There were those clips from the summer of you working with the younger kids at your camp that sort of, caught a lot of attention in terms of just, I don't know, the compassion that you use when you were talking to little kids, and then obviously the teens as well. Where does that come from, the ability to sort of speak to different ages in different ways that sort of make them feel comfortable talking to you?
Yeah, really my parents, especially my mom. My mom, she taught all younger ages. She taught 2nd through 5th a lot of my life, and then went on to teach preschoolers. So I was always in the classroom, always watching her be that. Being a teacher, obviously, you have to, you have to be firm at times. You have to go get, you have to get things communicated and get people organized. But no matter what, whether it was, the easy thing of having someone to go play or giving them food, or it was something more difficult of getting people in line, she was always compassionate. She always had empathy. You could always see the love that she had, and that was something, just being able to see that firsthand. I always wanted that for myself. I was able to have that example. So I'm super grateful for that.
If I could ask the both of you to speak to this in terms of resources. I know even through Young Nine, you're coupling resources with the conversations. In moments like this, what are you drawing that helps to maybe inspire? What resources do you share after? And even the same for you, Doctor, anything that you may want to advocate for, just what the resources look like in addition to the conversation that happens today.
Sure. I think one of the things that kids are struggling with the most that isn't talked about is suicide. I mean, there's kids chronically having these really terrible, deep thoughts, and for kids to know that they're not alone and that's not bad, but they need to get help is really important. So if there's ever any time that like a kid is feeling that way, and they tell a friend or they tell their parents, reach out immediately, because impulsively kids can be, and the last thing anybody wants is somebody to get hurt. And so just knowing that Hopeway is here for our teens and our young adults who are struggling with mental health issues as well as eating disorders, it really means the world to me that we're able to be here for those kids who are having those thoughts, but also just the impact of ADHD or anxiety or depression on their ability to navigate school. It doesn't have to be that hard if we have the right professional help. So I think just normalizing the conversation so that we know that it's okay to get help. And as Bryce said, it's okay to not be okay. Like, we all want to be strong and we all want to be our best, but like sometimes that means investing in our own health, and not just our physical health, but our mental health.
No, you can go.
Is there a difference, because in terms of fostering these conversations, is there a difference when someone comes to you and says, I have something that I need help with, and you asking somebody, is there something wrong, and then they answer, like, do you find a difference in that response at all? And how important is it to just facilitate these conversations in a conversation like was had today?
Yeah, I think just having open conversations and having whoever it is trusting that what they're saying is important and that there can be a plan towards safety is just really important. And I think again, just being able to talk about feelings, it's hard. People don't know what to do with all their feelings and they don't want to talk about it. So it's okay to talk about anxiety, or if you're feeling sad, or if you're overwhelmed with school. Everyone has these feelings, right? And so how can we help you be the best person, and how can we help you strive towards whatever goals you have in your life is really the ultimate reason we're here.
Bryce, earlier this week we saw a tragedy in New York City that kind of fused football and mental health problems with a tragic shooting that happened. How do you kind of think that football in your sphere can kind of work towards building and promoting better mental health? Obviously that's a golden ticket question, but what would you like to see different in terms of how mental health is handled in the football world?
I think just destigmatizing the conversation is something that's big. We've talked about it earlier a lot of times. Just like you said, a lot of times people look at, you look at someone who plays football, and think of them as, you maybe see the physical strength, and it's easy to see think of mental strength behind that. And sometimes that's the case, sometimes not. It's just like any other person, you can see the outside and what people allow you to see in the exterior, but everyone has their, there's the mental side, good or bad. There's ups and downs that come with it. And I think that, in sports especially, but really through any aspect of life, just the more conversations we can have, the more we can normalize that, all that we go through. I think that's always will be beneficial.
Bryce, were there Panthers fans back there? Were the kids Panthers?
I think we might have had a couple.
Yeah. Were they Bryce Young fans? I imagine.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, he's very modest. We had lots of fans.
Did they ask you? Obviously this was a serious discussion, but did they ask you, I don't know, sillier questions like, I don't know, what do you eat before a game, or like, were there any like, I don't know, was there any?
Yeah. Of course. There was, there was definitely youthfulness in there and their questions, but actually, again, I really commend, and this isn't, I've been, I wouldn't say surprised, but I think just one of the things that stood out here for sure, the times I've been here and other places as well, a lot of the times, you're around younger groups and kids, and you think it's going to be all that, or maybe you'd expect it. And if you're in certain settings, that's what I get in camps and stuff with youth camps. It's it's a lot of silly questions and fun, and that's great. But a lot of times in these conversations, more serious ones, you get really serious questions. You get a lot of really deep, thought-provoking questions, and you can kind of see a lot of times people being disarmed, and there's stuff here, but you see it's a lot. It's very attentive. Everyone is. You see eye contact. You see people really interested. And again, I think that just speaks to the power of normalizing these conversations. There's that. I'm a believer that that's, again, something we all share. It relates to everyone. So people can hold on to that. Really be curious, and I'm super grateful to have been a part of it.
Bryce, your family was here for this. How special is that, and how much pride do you see that they're watching you in that kind of environment now?
Yeah, that means a lot. Having my parents around is always a blessing, and I'm glad they get to see it, because I'm definitely why I am because of them. So hopefully they know that.
Their family unit is really inspiring, and I think it's great for the kids to see that too, and to know that it's okay to go to your parents.
Bryce speaks so glowingly about you guys, his childhood, and just how you raised him. When you see him in these environments, how much pride do you guys feel as parents?
Immense pride. It's your child. You poured everything you can into them, and to see them
grow and do so well. It's really heartwarming.
Yeah, and to see him want to pour back and give back into the community, and on the off day to spend that time talking to the kids, especially with the Young Nine Foundation. With the this is the core demographic, and this is the group and the age that he wants to reach. And to hear him speak so eloquently and honestly, and from the heart, and being very transparent, it was really cool to see.
You guys are both in professions where you're obviously very helpful to others. He's taken a lot, it seems, from both teaching and psychology into what he does. I've seen him with some of the youth programs and now doing this today. Do you have any memories of him like really taking an interest into what you guys do for work growing up, or just kind of being invested in your jobs?
I was a teacher. I'm mostly in special education, and so he would come to a lot of events, and there were times.
Good Friday afternoon, everyone. I'm Colin Mayfield here on WCNC Plus inside the Impact News studio. We've got an action-packed hour or so before we toss things to our linear show on WCNC with Nick Sturdivant and Jane Monreal. We're going to start with a couple of hemp bills here in North Carolina. There's been a lot of discussion, and I know for now, regulators are in recess. They'll be back in the next month or so. But Governor Josh Stein in June just asked for the creation of this North Carolina Advisory Council on Cannabis, trying to recognize some of what the industry looks like in North Carolina, getting experts involved in that. And so let me just set the scene, because there are two bills that have been really discussed here at the state level. And we do have two experts, in my opinion, who own a dispensary in the area, who are talking about their business and how this could be impacted to them. But we'll get to them in just one second. But first, North Carolina House Bill 328. It's a recent piece of legislation here in North Carolina that is really trying to regulate, which is really a growing hemp industry in the state. It's exploding in North Carolina. And really, this is all about aiming to regulate these certain types of products, whether it's THCA, Delta 9, Delta 8. There are certain amounts that will be allowed in terms of this law, right? And so I don't necessarily want to say that there are no laws on the books with this. Obviously, you have to be at a certain age to have CBD cannabis products within North Carolina already. But there are, in House Bill 328, some testing requirements, packaging requirements. There's a ton of other things. And then the biggest thing is the age restriction of this that really prohibits the sale to anyone under 21 years old. Then you have Senate Bill 265, which is totally different. And this is also an age restriction bill in some respects, but really fine-tuning the regulation of sales, production, and distribution. So testing standards, school grounds ban, that's a big one, part of this. Penalties. So there are a number of guidelines that go along with these bills. And folks both for this and against it as well. And we did reach out to some regulators who have sponsored this bill, one from Gastonia, who I'm still waiting to hear back from. Have not gotten them to get back with me just yet, but as I said, I do know they're on recess. So hoping to get the other side in terms of what they're trying to do at the state to regulate these products. But let's bring in Drew and Eric, who are the co-owners, or the owners, I should say, of we have Carolina High Life dispensaries here in Charlotte. Guys, appreciate your time. Let's just start with the impact. I know you guys have been vocal about this and what this could do to the industry. So let's start with the industry. Give me some really good bits of information, because there's a lot of stigma around cannabis. You know, it's a stigmatized type of word. I think, folks are it's not necessarily something that they're in the dark about, right? But normally people don't talk a lot about it. So let's just start there. Talk about the industry you guys are in, and like I said, it's exploding right now.
Yes, sir. Yeah. First of all, thanks for having us on, Colin. We're always happy to talk about cannabis. I don't know about expert goes. Maybe we're experts in actually smoking the cannabis, but some of these laws, are newer, and we're trying to learn ourselves about them. But just kind of introducing, cannabis and hemp to North Carolina, if you don't know about it, I mean, it's medicine. That's first and foremost what it is from the earth. It's such a better alternative than any of the prescription drugs you're looking at, or if you're just looking to have a good time, it's such a much better alternative than alcohol. So we're trying to educate our customers. We're trying to put the word out. We need to end some of these stigmas, like the devil's lettuce and stuff, and how it's bad for you, makes you lazy, all this stuff. Trying to end all that and just educate people and just talk about how good of a plan it is and how it's great for this community in multiple ways.
Especially if it's grown right and if it's sold right, then that's the most important thing. You don't want to just be putting anything in your body. So that is why we have a store the way we do. To just let people know there's a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things. And if we can educate them, then we can help them make the right decision on what they're doing with themselves.
I love that. Now let's talk about some of the products that are not only on your shelves but on North Carolina's shelves, as a whole. What type of products do you guys have? And again, these are within regulation here in North Carolina, so these are products that you can get over the counter that are totally legal, correct?
Absolutely.
Correct. So we have two different styles of business, I would say. Carolina High Life is really focused on high quality, 100% organic products. None of the BS in there, just all the good stuff, like the good stuff of the plant. Because cannabis, the industry of cannabis is just like any other industry. Like I'll compare it to fast food or food in general, I should say. You can have a really nice steak or you could buy a McDonald's hamburger. Which one do you want? Not all cannabis is created equal. Not all food is created equal, just like, the alcohol industry or whatever. So what we try to focus is on that higher end, right? The organic steak product, if you will, because when you go to the lower end, kind of what Eric was saying is you get some of these fillers in there or these things like THCP that shouldn't be in there. They're just trying to much like a McDonald's hamburger, they're trying to cut costs.
Yeah,
they're trying to cut their own costs.
make more money.
It's all about the bottom line.
Yeah, they don't care about the person. They just want to make the quickest dollar they can, and we don't want that to happen. We want the plant to be consumed the right way. We want people to enjoy it the right way
and not harm their bodies.
Yeah, not harm their bodies because doing these other things, you never know the long-term aspects of it.
Yeah, we don't know what THCPs can do to you in 5 years. It just came out.
Yeah, exactly.
And the only reason it was invented was because to create a filler for these non-legal states like North Carolina, you can't ship a THC disposable to North Carolina, but you can ship a THCP disposable to North Carolina. What is THCP? Well, a lot of people, the jury's still out on what it is and is it good for you? We don't think it's good for you, but nobody knows really is it good for you or not because it hasn't had time to be tested and tried and put through all the ringer there. So what we try to do is just give you, the customer, the best product, the most organic product. We don't want you to put anything in your body that we wouldn't put in our own bodies, right? Exactly. Or anything that's going to potentially harm you in the future. Like we're just trying to provide medicine and a good time and not cause any side effects, right? Like alcohol and these other places do. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that was a great answer. I think that lets people know, right? I think that was a great comment, right? You're not selling anything that you wouldn't put in your own body. So I think that lets people know, right, what type of standard you guys hold your product to. So that's great to hear. Let's talk about the impact to business that both of these, HB 328 and SB 265. In terms of, we don't have to get into the politics of this because I know it's been very politicized lately, but what could this do to your business? Because it seems like certain products could literally be wiped off the shelves. I mean, and a lot of products have some of these things like, Delta 9, there's a specific amount of Delta 9 supposed to have it. And I know you guys know that, Delta 8. So just kind of explain what that looks like for us, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. I think it comes down to a couple things with these bills. And, Eric and I can't really talk about the politics of it. We're not in Raleigh. We barely know what a bill is. We hope this one passes. So we don't know a lot about the politics, but what we do know is what's happening on the street. And what I can tell you is just having dispensaries open like ours is eliminating a lot of the drug dealers or plugs or whatever you call it out on the streets because for a few reasons. Or for the first reason is it's the same price. You can buy an eighth from us for $40. You go to the gas station, and meet Willie Lump Lump, you can buy an 8 for $40. Which one are you going to choose? Are you going to go to the gas station, potentially get robbed? Or are you going to come in a safe environment where you have choices? You know, things have been tested. You know that we're scanning IDs. We're not giving away our products to children. You have to have it. We have an ID scanner in our store. So what we are doing is we are eliminating the plugs because they can't keep up with us. It's the same price. Everybody eventually is going to come to our stores, right? So that does a couple of things. You know, I think these bills, what they're concerned about is keeping
regulation,
is keeping these products out of the reach of children, right? Well, by having these stores and regulating the process, you're eliminating the plug out there, right? You're eliminating the drug dealer. And the kid, they're not going to be around anymore to sell to your children. They're not going to be at the gas station because they're not going to exist. You know, we're going to take over the market, all these legal dispensaries, and we're carding everybody. We have to. You know, we're checking IDs. So the minors, the amount of drugs getting into the minors' hands is actually going to be reduced.
Absolutely.
If you ask me. And then on the same token, people care about keeping it out of the kids' hands, right? And they also care about the health risk.
Yes.
You know, like you want to know what you put in your body. You don't want to put these chemicals, these synthetic nutrients that they use to grow the product.
You don't want a sprayed product. Yeah, you don't want a sprayed product, or you don't want any kind of PGRs or anything put in inside your medicine that you're taking. That's not very healthy for you at all. It's not good.
It can cause cancer.
Yeah, and you never know the effects. The effects of it, especially if you have children that are getting it off the street, which we want to keep that from happening. You know, so that's one of the ways we can do it, by having these type of stores.
Yeah. A quick story. We have a customer. He started out with us and he moved here from Ohio. He didn't have anywhere to go when he moved here. He didn't know where to buy his product from, where to buy his medicine from. He went to a gas station and bought it, and that product was laced with fentanyl. And he was in the hospital for 3 days just because he didn't have a source to go to, a trusted source to go to. So we're looking out for the general health of the public. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to put anybody at risk. So you got the youth, you got the health, and then just the revenue aspect of it. I mean, you know, put 2% on all sales, all cannabis sales in North Carolina, and do something with that money. Do something good with it. You know, pay the teachers more, build,
Absolutely.
you know, fix the roads.
Absolutely.
You know, take advantage. Don't not take advantage of the money that's going to be coming in this billion-dollar industry.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You can make your state better.
Yes.
Why would you not make your state better? And you're protecting children, and you're keeping everybody safe at the same time. That's what this regulation does. Now, on the other end, if you go away and I think it's House, he says 328, right, Con? If you go away from that and you eliminate the regulation, then you're asking for more plugs out there. You're asking for the streets to be flooded, you know, with these products that are dangerous.
Yes.
You know, you're not bringing any revenue in for your state. So to me and Eric, you know, this is like a no-brainer. Like, let's figure it out. I think the governor's trying to do that with this council. Let's figure it out and let's move forward, and then everybody wins in the end, right?
I think so. And that's the last piece that I was going to ask you is about that council, because I know that you guys specifically on your social media pages, Carolina High Life on Instagram and everywhere else as well, check them out, that you were speaking specifically about folks, right, to give their opinion, because you guys want all these ideas out there. I think that's great, right, to have, have that type of transparency. What do you guys think about the council? Like I said, I know that they're trying to get some experts, if not already have some people in mind. Maybe they've reached out to you two. I don't know. But what do you guys think in your mind would be a fair look at these products? And again, there's certain age restrictions already. But there are a lot of people, I mean, specifically Carla Cunningham, who's from Mecklenburg County, Donnie Loftus, who we reached out from Gastonia, who's a Republican. So this is a, both sides of the aisle type of thing that they are attacking. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that? What would be, I guess, like the alternative or, the medium ground? Is there any?
That's a good question. First of all, we'd love to be on that council, I think, right? We've tested all the products. We have a good knowledge of all of them, and we're happy to test more.
Yes.
Anyway, I'd love to be on that council. That's all jokes aside. I think and I tell this, and Eric's heard me say this a million times, but I think that the toothpaste is already out of the tube, right? I mean, we're not going back anywhere. It's going to be hard to go back. Let's put it that way. So there's only one way forward, and that's through regulation.
That's the right way.
And that's the right way to go. That's the way we have to go. If you're going backwards, again, you're reintroducing all these issues back into, the society. So I think what Governor Stein is doing is great, because he's saying, let's just not have a knee-jerk reaction, and let's say this is what the law is, this is how we're going to police it, this is what the fines are, blah, blah, blah. He's taking it's like 6 months, right? He's saying, let's get a group of experts together. Me and Eric are happy to join this crew if you'd like us to, but let's get a group of experts together and let's actually research this and look what they're doing in other states.
Yes.
And look how they're policing things, right? And then let's come up with some laws, and then let's vote on those laws. So I think what he's doing is the best way forward. Honestly, I applaud him. And I think you're right, Colin. We all got to speak out. We all got to talk about how important this is, even if you don't partake yourself.
Somebody
does.
Somebody
you know does,
yeah,
or just the safety of your children, or your sister's children, or in your state, right? It's gonna bring revenue into your state. It's gonna create jobs. You got to have people that go around and inspect or do audits on things, or administrative people that are policing these licenses or charging the right fee for this license. You're going to create jobs with this regulation. So again, it's a no-brainer to us, and it's a win-win for everyone.
Love that, guys. Last thing, anything else that I'm missing that you guys wanted to get across that's important to you? Anything that comes true to that?
I mean, what we've been saying the whole time, obviously we'd love for you to shop with us.
Yeah.
To come to Carolina Highlight.
But wherever you go,
yeah,
just make sure that everything is how it's supposed to be. Make sure that the tests are right. Read your papers on
the labels.
Yeah, read the labels. Just read what
do your own research.
Yes, exactly.
Because
it's so important.
There's a lot of bad actors out there. There's a ton of bad actors, and they don't know what they're talking about. Honestly, they have no clue. They're just trying to make money.
Yes.
On this new hemp industry in North Carolina. Just do your research. I don't care if you I want you to come to us, obviously, but go to somewhere reputable, go to a good, trusted source.
Yes.
Do your own research. Don't just put anything in your body.
Yes, for
sure. Because there's a lot of BS out there.
Yeah, be safe. Be healthy about what you do.
Right.
I love that, guys. Some great advice just to let folks know, and really educating people on, because like I said, it's a discussion that we don't have very openly. Obviously, we see it politicized and in Raleigh and in places sometimes that people can't get to, but it's good to have the conversation here on WCNC+. So thank you, Drew and Eric, owners of Carolina High Life Dispensary. Go and check them out if that's what you would love to do. Sounds like their products are amazing, organic things that, if you want to take some time, obviously something you're able to do. So thanks, guys. Appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you for having us.
Let's keep going on with our live stream here until 4 o'clock. There has been a situation in Cincinnati that another one. Obviously, there was a situation a couple of months ago where a man hit and killed, I believe, a sheriff's deputy after his son was shot and killed. This is a situation, though, is really I think a lot of folks have eyes on this because it's been a viral video in Cincinnati, this street brawl that a lot of folks have received backlash on. There's a press conference happening live in Cincinnati right now with the mayor and a number of other leaders in Cincinnati, including the police chief. So we're going to go to this live right now, and we'll give you some context once this is done.
Law and order. Every resident who works or lives in this city will feel the impact of that because they will understand that we have created a safer environment in this city and county. This working relationship will be led with integrity, compassion, effectiveness, and transparency. As your sheriff, I'm all in for the county. I'm all in for the city. And for the criminal justice system that we must utilize and strengthen our partnerships and bring real solutions, and solutions that include law and order to this city and this county. Thank you very much.
Finally, we will have a faith leader, Pastor David Lynch.
Thank you, Mayor, and to all of us gathered, to the chief, the sheriff, the council members. I agree, and I'm excited to stand with the mayor and others saying that safety has to be the #1 priority in our city. Across our city, every social demographic wants to live in a safe city. And in saying that, let me address briefly the racializing and politicizing of this event that happened this past weekend. We would not be here, and this would not be national news. This would not be national news. This was a group of black people that jumped on other black people. It would not be national news if it happened in Montgomery Inn and somebody beat down 2 elderly white people. But obviously it's national news because it's been racialized. So let's walk back. For those who want to racialize this, it was a fight that took place. It was a black man and a white man, one-on-one. They were facing each other, and no punches were thrown. A kick was tried that didn't land. And for those who want to racialize it, then a black man stepped in between the combatants, separated them, and said, "This is enough, stop fighting, everybody needs to chill." And then for those who want to racialize it, the white man then steps back in the ring and slaps not the black man that he had just squared up with, but slaps another black man. So after that, he was met with disproportionate force. For those who want to politicize it, the J.D. Vances and the Vivek Ramaswamis and the Bernie Morinos and the Christopher Smithermans and many others who want to politicize it, they have not yet said something that I always hear when a black person, say, runs from the police and then is met with disproportionate force, sometimes ending their life. What we hear is, well, why did they run? Why didn't they just comply? We hear that every time. But I've yet to hear anybody say, why didn't he just walk away? So let me back up so you understand this. 2 combatants, 1 black, 1 white. A black man steps in, breaks it up. The white guy re-engages, slaps, not the black man that he had just squared up with, but slaps another black man. And nobody's asking, why didn't he just walk away? And so when I see, and I don't know who else the chief is looking for or CPD is looking for, but when I see the mugshots, I only see people who look like me. I don't see the person who re-engaged, slapped not the initial person, but slapped another black man. So I don't see the slapper's mugshot. And so sadly, I have to agree with those who are politicizing this and racializing this. I have to agree with the Smithermans, the Ramaswamis, the Morinos, Corey Bowman. This is racial because it is unequal justice. And so until we see all the mugshots, this is still a racial issue. So let me say again to those in Cincinnati, it's Friday night, and we know people like to go out on Friday night. Here's what I would ask. Because of what happened this past weekend, we don't want to see it happen again. Drink responsibly, take care of one another, and everybody get home safe. God bless you.
Thank you, Pastor. I'm truly grateful for the outpouring from every sector of our city here today and over this past week. It has been a challenging time. But we have been and will continue to respond innovatively, with urgency, because it cannot be lost that violent crime has no place in our city, period. To that end, in partnership with the governor, the police chief will be deploying state highway patrol on our highways inside of our city. I want to be very clear that CPD will still be exclusively responding to calls for service, that the highway patrol will be used specifically on the highways, and that will free up significant CPD resources in order to deploy police officers in our urban core. Our priority right now is public safety and police visibility. In addition to that, the chief will be directing CDRT and SWAT, who have been deployed every single weekend through the year in our urban core, starting at the banks. They will now expand the footprint of CDRT and SWAT to include 4th Street. We are also announcing a new bike patrol that will monitor the Fountain District in order to increase our visibility. And we're actively engaged with the sheriff on collaborating on the Court Street area. We are by no means finished. We have more work to do. We are meeting this moment with urgency, but we are also meeting this moment with a shared and deep understanding of Cincinnati's history, of the progress that we've made to get us here, and an undeniable vision that our best days are ahead of us. With that, we'll take your questions.
How many officers did you guys have in the Central Business District at the time this assault happened?
Chief?
We had 11, and we narrowed that window down because I knew this question would come. So from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. specifically, we had 11 officers working, and that is not counting off-duty details that may have been in the area.
And that's in the Central Business District?
Correct.
How come there weren't more officers? I know you even said it, that you wouldn't want your family to be downtown when the bar is closed. The bar is closed, they don't let out till 3 o'clock in the morning. How come there weren't more officers, and so many officers, I guess, were let go at 2 o'clock that morning?
So this is a weekend that we've had for many years, music festival, Reds games, whatever's going on. This is not new territory for us as far as policing. We work with a schedule that we think is best for the events that are occurring. Normally, come 2 a.m. on this weekend, things start to calm down for us. We still had 11 officers working. To us, that is a sufficient number of officers to have in the Central Business section for this weekend.
Arguably, this incident would not have occurred had there not been a large group of people gathered outside the Love on Fourth bar. There have been 84 incidents since that bar opened at that location. 84 incidents that police have been called at that location since it opened. Why not have police at that location if you're getting called there every weekend anyway?
Because the geographical area of the Central Business section is more than just that corner. And we owe it to the entire community down there to cover as much geographical area.
We've got some breaking news quickly. Another firing by the Trump administration on this Friday. It is the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and this follows apparently from NBC News. They're reporting this hours after a stunning government report that showed hiring had slowed down significantly, which we did see that report. That happened, that time span over the past 3 months. So taking to Truth Social, he attacked the former now head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, saying that he claimed the country's jobs report, they're being produced by a Biden appointee, and ordered his administration to terminate her. So this comes just minutes ago. The president also saying that we need accurate jobs numbers. She will be replaced with someone much more competent and qualified. Important numbers like this must be fair and accurate. They can't be manipulated for political purposes. An administration official even telling NBC News shortly after the post that the woman fired McIntyre, that she had indeed been fired. That is confirmation from the White House. So it's not immediately clear who will take the helm of the agency. The deputy director obviously is still there, but he's been in that role since the Obama administration. So that could be the next place that the administration maybe looks to go to. But we will see if there's any movement on this Friday. But this coming just minutes ago, the administration nabbing the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Jeb?
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting that this firing comes literally just hours after the jobs report was posted this morning by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and that jobs report was scathing, saying only 73,000 jobs were added in July. For context, most economic experts had predicted 200,000 jobs were added. So that is a very, very staunch indicator of the status of the economy right now. So this comes literally hours after that report, and a very dark looming figure for many involved with job creation here in the United States.
Yeah. So we'll see where it goes from here. We're going to go back to the press conference in Cincinnati with the situation that happened in the street, a street brawl.
Encourage and ask that they do that. What the chief is communicating to you is that if that enforcement is stepped up, which would be welcome, because as you have indicated, there's been incidents where these folks haven't been picked up by state authorities. We're just asking for that collaboration.
If this is a problem area, how come there's no city cameras or no working city cameras that picked up the incident? Or do you rely on the 3 CDC cameras, which aren't public record?
Yeah, so we have a very robust CEPTED program where we work to harden locations, including videos. We collaborate extensively with private businesses. Actually, I'll ask the chief to talk through that in order to rely not just on city cameras, but on private cameras as well, and not just in businesses, but also at homes. And we are actively trying to increase that presence. Chief?
And I do understand that it is, obviously people have seen what happened, and I think the public has a right to see how this unfolded from the start to the end. Will this footage be made available to the public?
Yeah, I'll ask the chief to respond to that.
Yes, Karen. So to your point about cameras and additional information, Reverend Lynch explained what he saw when he saw the footage, which is the footage that has been extensively viewed by public. Probably early next week, I will be releasing additional footage, including body-worn camera. That tells a little bit more of the story, but right now, I need to let the investigators continue to do their job. If I release too much, too soon, even though there's a very strong appetite for it, I jeopardize the integrity of the investigation, and that would not be good for anybody involved.
Mayor, you said that you've already shut down another bar in that area. 84 complaints to that particular address, 2 liquor violations at the state. What does it take to get some corrective action at that location?
Takes the city solicitor's office doing their investigation on the complaints, which is absolutely ongoing. And as that investigation proceeds, and we actually have the facts about whether the complaints are justified and backed up by evidence, then we will of course take corrective action. But at this point, it's too soon to comment on that. One second. Becca, go ahead, then you'll be next.
Chief, can you talk more about this revolving door committee you mentioned? Who will appoint the members? When will they start meeting? And are you asking for any action to happen before those committees' recommendations are out?
Yeah, so it's a very new idea, a new concept. I will be working with the executive board of the Hamilton County Police Chiefs Association to determine exactly that. Who will be on the committee? We will reach out to the entities that I mentioned, see who they would like to represent them at the table, and so that we can move this topic forward.
Chief Fiji, this is an ongoing investigation, obviously, but there's been a lot of outside conversation outside of Cincinnati. Can you tell us anything about the people that you say could possibly be charged? Are they from this area? Are they local? Or are you using other cities as resources to help get those people captured?
Yeah, so right now, I'm not going to reveal that because, like I said, our fugitive apprehension unit is looking. Our investigators are still working. And again, I do not want to tip our hat to anything too soon.
Well, the man who made the
Yes, sir.
Chief, one question. The street crime task force, are they going to be
past 3 a.m., or what does it look like?
Yeah, so the Street Crimes Task Force, their hours fluctuate, and that's by design. I cannot stand here and reveal to you where all of our resources are going to be, what day of the week, what time of the day. Because if I stand here and tell you, hey, the Street Crimes Task Force is going to be out Saturday till 2 a.m., somebody who's thinking about committing a crime is like, well, okay, I'll go out at 2:30 a.m. So I'm not going to reveal. That's a tactical strategy of ours that needs to be kept very, very close to us.
Well, Sheriff, I have a question for you if you don't mind. The chief had said earlier.
Excuse me, sir. I'd ask you to talk to the sheriff after the press conference. We're focused on city officials for Q&A, but I'm happy to take any question that you have.
I mean, this mostly pertains to her, and you had her speak, so I assume that would be fair game, but sure. You talked about a significant decrease in citywide crime. What numbers do you have to support that? Where are the statistics on that? And what specific types of crime? Are you talking violent crimes, car break-ins? Where are we at with that?
Yeah, violent crime. We do a bi-weekly update and press conference on the recent crime stats. We've been doing that for the last month, if not more. And what we have shown is our violent crime is down, but there's a concerning increase in burglaries, in breaking and enterings, and shootings in some specific areas, which is why we responded forcefully with a street crimes task force that is using the data about where these hotspot areas are to increase our enforcement and our police visibility. It's why we're using drones as first responders, particularly in these areas, in order to drive those numbers down. And we've talked a lot about our police response, but it's why we have problem-solving initiatives, particularly at Smale Park and in other hotspot areas, in order to not just rely on police, but take a comprehensive view in trying to reduce the crime.
I'll tell you what I have
Go
a
ahead.
question that I have for you. You talk about often violent offenders are released quickly without consequence. I believe the chief's the one that said that. Do we have a jail system in this county that can support longer jail stays for violent offenders, given the volume that we have within the city?
Yes. Go ahead.
A Facebook post from Councilmember Victoria Park, went viral earlier this week. It said, I think the quote is, the victims begged for that beatdown. There have been some calls online for her resignation and from a couple of local officials. I'm wondering if you have any comment on that.
Yeah, I've commented on this already. I profoundly disagree with Councilmember Victoria Parks. No one deserves.
Got another breaking story that we're just starting to learn the impacts and ramifications of. About 2 hours ago, if not less than that, there was some big news about the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, the funder of NPR, PBS. There are so many educational things that come from that, saying that it will shut down after Congress cut funds. And this announcement comes less than a month after Congress passed that package of spending cuts that was in the big beautiful bill in some respects, but that include stripping $1.1 billion in funding for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a hole they can just not fill at all, especially even with fundraising. Trying to get that type of amount of money is just not doable for them. So they said in a statement that it will begin an orderly wind down of its operations in nearly 60 years of support from the federal government. This is really astonishing. Again, my children watch PBS Kids so much just because of the shows that are on there, the educational shows that we can talk about and can really help with development, those type of things. And obviously there's a lot of investigations that happen as well in relation to what NPR does. So it's said that most of the staff positions will conclude with the close of the fiscal year on September 30th. Now, a small team of employees will remain through January 2026, but it did not specify how many people in total are going to be laid off. So this is some tough news in today's world, especially for journalists, because this is one of the standards that a lot of journalists look up to and live by, especially from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. So their CEO just disheartened that the federal funding was taken away, and their difficult decision is now closing operations. So again, 1,500 locally owned public radio and television stations could be closing. They support 1,500, more than that, actually, across the nation. So we'll see where this goes. Again, NPR and PBS obviously have been drawn the ire of Republicans, as a lot of folks have said that they have liberal bias to the organizations, which has been repeatedly denied, not only by the organizations themselves, but by other independent sources as well. So we'll see what happens from here, but it does look like many people will lose their jobs in relation to this. So we'll go back to the Cincinnati press conference now.
Bringing together such a diverse group of community leaders today, which is why I'm going to speak very frankly about the folks who are trying to divide us along racial lines, and which is why we are a very proud, diverse city, and that will continue to be central to our strength. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. You asked a question, and you're part of the media. We've had over 38 homicides in this city. And I have not seen a loop even close to those 38 homicides to what the media has continuously showed day in and day out. So when you continuously run a loop where you have national leaders that are speaking irresponsible, showing black and white people trying to knock each other's heads off, what role do you play, media, in continually showing that level of violence? What role do you play in quoting misdirected national leaders talking about a city that is on the right track, but they're doing everything they can to try to take us off the track? What role do you play, media, in that? What you'll say is you're just reporting the news. But I'll say to you, when you continuously show a loop and you continuously report misguided, misdirected national leaders trying to slam our city, you have to ask your question. You have got to ask yourself, what role are you playing?
We all know that it's a lot easier to divide, particularly along racial lines, in a city our size that is as diverse as we are. We have seen it throughout the history of Cincinnati. And every time we've been faced with this kind of racial challenge, the way forward that has been shown time and time again is to have honest conversations, to bring people together, and to collaboratively work on a brighter, more equitable, and more just city. That is the challenge in front of the city leaders today. And it is my hope and my vision to learn from our history, to bring us together, to be clear-eyed about what is in the best interest of our city, and what is not in the best interest of our city is to blame and to use racial ideology to prevent us from coming together. That is not the Cincinnati of our past or today. And in order for us to confront this challenge again, I'm asking for all of us to reach towards each other's shared humanity and work together and collaboratively with me to fix that. Go ahead.
I know there's been a lot of talk about different type of patrols and what we're doing. So for someone like myself who lives in the downtown area, and what can people who are going out to eat or just going out to any of the activities this week, what should they expect when they're downtown safety-wise? Because I know there's so many different patrols. So can you just kind of clarify what they might see and how they know they could be safe?
What they're going to see is the city's prioritization of visibility. They're going to see police officers on foot. They're going to see police officers on bike patrols. They're going to see police officers in squad cars. They're going to see police officers on Segways and on Segways that have 3 wheels. We are prioritizing visibility in our urban core in order to not just maintain safety, but also to make sure that people feel safe when they're going out. Yes,
Chief,
go ahead.
Mayor, you talked about the state and the governor offering assistance. The governor talked about you not accepting all of that assistance. Can you talk about maybe why you pick and choose certain things to accept?
Yeah, when the governor called me and we started collaborating on a partnership, I made it clear to him that what we need most is police visibility. And that's why Highway Patrol doing what they're already currently charged to do, which is patrol our highways, frees up our CPD officers to drive more visibility into the urban core. As I mentioned earlier, we need the state to be more active in enforcing parole, folks on parole who are cutting their ankle monitors, and we welcome that. The other interventions offered by the governor weren't necessarily congruent with the challenges that we're facing and weren't necessarily needed at this time. But of course, the governor is a trusted partner. As I mentioned, he's a solid leader for our state, and I welcome and will hope to continue collaborating with him in the future.
Can you tell us what those measures were that you didn't accept?
I don't have them. I don't have the full list in front of
Can
me.
I ask about the victims here? I know everyone knows who Holly is by now. Chief, you said there are 5 other victims. Has anyone here had a conversation with the victims, reached out, and how are they doing?
So I personally have not spoken with the victims. Their first interaction was with a beat officer the night of the incident, and they have had continual conversations with my investigators as representatives of CPD.
Anyone else, Mayor?
Any other questions?
Have you reached out to the victims? Have you talked to the victims?
I have not. I mean, look, again, this was a fight. It was a horrific fight. But as Councilmember and others have said, we have significant other public safety challenges. We have children who are far too often the victims of gun violence. We have oftentimes far too often the perpetrators of gun violence being children. We have violent crime like every other major city across the nation that requires our attention and our bandwidth. And so I don't traditionally meet or speak to every victim of violent crime in our city, and that's consistent with my approach today. Other questions?
I just want to give the chief the opportunity to answer the question I asked you earlier. Will that man who made the slap that Pastor Lynch was talking about face charges?
So we were contacted just yesterday asking the investigators to go to the Justice Center, speak with him. He is represented by counsel. The investigators are aware of that. They spoke to his counsel before they went down to see him, and the counsel said no. He did not want the police talking to his client, so therefore we have not had a conversation with him yet. I want to go back to the question, though, real quick about the state resources. So the State Patrol patrolling the highways is nothing new. We do it with them all the time. They come in and join us when we do our traffic blitzes. The Aviation, nothing new. They've been working with the Street Crimes Task Force for a couple weeks now. Nothing new. The parole, absolutely, as the mayor said, I would love for them to come into our city and look for their violators. Absolutely. What we didn't discuss, though, is if they would.
We're going to cut into this right now, but of course we'll continue to monitor the situation in Cincinnati that has captivated the nation because of the video that came from that street brawl. But we want to center things back here on Charlotte. Man, the football game last night was great to have. I know folks are like, football hasn't started yet, but Hall of Fame game really, it was a good game in my opinion. I mean, fun to watch.
Trey Lance legacy game.
Trey
We
Lance,
watched it here on WCNC.
You kept saying that, but you've got some crazy takes. Let's leave your sports takes for a couple minutes here. Let's bring on the professional of sports takes here, Nick Carboni, our sports director here at WCNC. Nick, great to have you again, man. I know you've been all week at practice. Let's talk about today. Where do you want to start? I saw T-Mac talking about his practice this last week. How did he look today?
It was actually a little bit of an underwhelming day for he and Bryce Young. They kind of failed to connect a few times, but Coach Dave Canales told us after practice that's something they can now go look at this afternoon and say, okay, I thought you were going to be here. I delivered the ball here. So that is part of building the chemistry. But T-Mac, after having a quiet first few weeks, and we were talking a lot about Hunter Renfrow, who, by the way, has been out of practice 2 straight days, T-Mac made a loud statement this week on Wednesday with his practice. He dropped a pass, which he rarely did in college, and then he responded by rattling off 4 or 5 catches in a row, including like a nearly impossible one-handed catch. And that is what he brings to this team, and that is what he brings to Bryce Young. So he's coming along. He is admittedly adjusting to the physicality of the NFL. NFL. There's a lot more man press coverage at the line of scrimmage, so he's experiencing that more, and he's experiencing it coming from Pro Bowl corner J.C. Horn every day at practice. So he's like, look, I'm hoping I get some of the calls on those physical reps, but I also have to overcome it, and I overcome it with confidence and listening to my coaches and fellow wide receivers. So he is steadily progressing. Man, when he makes one of those one-handed catches, it is spectacular. He made a lot of them in college. You see him kind of working on it in individual drills. So I asked him about it today. I'm like, I know it's flashy. I know fans love it, but it's also kind of a part of your game. And he kind of downplayed it and said, he said, y'all aren't going to believe me, but I catch it with one hand only when I have to. But the point is that he can, and he can at 6'4", plus the arm length and the ability to catch it one-handed really opens it up for Bryce Young to get it anywhere near him. And you love this mentality, Colin, from a rookie. He told me, if I get my hands on the ball, it's my obligation to the quarterback to catch it. Love that attitude and approach.
Yeah, he needs Bryce needs a safe breadbasket to throw that ball into, and it sounds like he's found it. So.
Third downs, red zone, like that's where he's going to come up big.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome to watch. You have some big news about Bryce Young for the first couple preseason games. Give us that.
Yeah, last year, I mean, Dave Canales' first big decision as head coach in the NFL was whether or not to play his starting quarterback in the preseason. He chose not to do so until the third preseason game, which is really more for those back end of the roster guys. Bryce Young plays. He looked sharp. He had 8 passing attempts. It's going to be a lot different this year. Dave Canales today confirming that Bryce Young and the starters will play in each of the 2 first preseason games. Okay. You also look at the calendar, and when those preseason games are, they each correspond and follow joint practices. So next week, they play their preseason game against the Browns on Friday. Wednesday, the Browns are here for a joint practice. Same thing at Houston the following week, a joint practice against the Texans, a preseason game that Bryce Young will play in at the Texans. So he's going to get a lot of work, and he's going to get a lot of reps with his new pieces like T-Mac and Rico Dowdle out of the backfield joining Chuba Hubbard. So obviously a different approach. Dave Canales wouldn't go as far as to say that it was a lesson learned from his approach last year where he didn't play Bryce until the third game, and then Bryce has a terrible first 2 games of the season in the new offense and is benched by week 3. He just said, listen, that's the way Pete Carroll did it when I was in Seattle. So that's his approach now. It wasn't last year, so we'll see any results that it bears. But that was a conversation that I was kind of waiting to see who blinked. Dave Canales or the media? When are we going to ask him about it? When is he going to say it? It certainly would have happened by Monday or after FanFest tomorrow night. But now it is confirmed Bryce Young and the starters will play at least a couple series in those first 2 preseason contests.
All right, let's talk about FanFest, and let's talk about what's ahead, because I've already been asked about Shedeur Sanders.
He'll be here.
Yeah, I mean, and there's always, this is a very interesting time. There's a lot of scuffles that happen. People love that aspect of it, but there's a lot of nuts and bolts that go into it because they're trying to get the X's and O's perfectly right before they start the season. So give us, set the stage for us for next week.
You can take a lot from the joint practices.
Okay.
You can take a lot from the guys on the line of scrimmage, offensive line, defensive line. I remember before one season, the Panthers offensive line going up against the Bills defensive line in a training camp joint practice. And that was kind of our first sign that year that this offensive line has a lot of work to do. That Bills defensive line was pretty good as well. So you can glean a lot. I say that knowing full well that I watched Bryce Young practice against the Jets last year in joint practice, and everybody, including myself, said, this kid's got it.
Yeah.
And then he had a horrible first 2 games. But there's going to be a lot of work they get in. They can control the scenarios and the situations in which they're putting their players in, while also not being allowed to tackle to the ground mostly, but definitely not allowed to hit the quarterback still. It's still controlled in that way, but then you can in the preseason game. The intensity ramps up. There is something to be said for, hey, I finally get a chance to hit somebody besides my own teammate. As chippy as we see things sometimes get between your own teammates in practice, no doubt you see another team walking up on your field, that competitive juice is going to start flowing. It's probably going to be hot and humid, and you're going to be hitting hard. So I think we'll definitely see some scuffles. We did last year with the Panthers, and now this is even more of a Panthers team in defense that is tired of being pushed around. doesn't want to back down.
Yeah.
Be interested to see in how the Panthers defense looks against that Browns quarterback room, which is, I guess, interesting to say the least.
Right.
Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, Shadur Sanders. I'm not sure how they're splitting all those reps, but we'll get a look at that. And then defensively, the Browns picked Mason Graham, defensive tackle, top 5 pick. They have Myles Garrett. How does that look against the Panthers offensive line?
Yeah. Well, talk about some of the keys for next week, because you brought it up yourself. The defense. J.C. Horn looked real good locking down XL earlier this week, and I know that he's working on his routes. He looks fast on his breaks as well. How's the defense molding, in your opinion?
Yeah, the defensive backfield, I'll start there. They have the established outside cornerbacks in J.C. Horn, who made the Pro Bowl, and Mike Jackson, who they picked up around this time last year, turned himself into a very solid starter, and they kept him around. Then you've got the safety room, which basically is all new, at least from a starting standpoint. They brought in free agent Trayvon Merrick, and now they're watching these younger guys like Damani Richardson kind of step up and prevent them from bringing anybody else in off the street so far. Okay. You've seen a lot of good communication in those groups, a lot of good picking up of the system and knowing what to do. Shaw Smith-Wade is working his way into the starting nickelback position. That's kind of a carryover from last year. And a guy I talked to today, Corey Thornton, young, rookie, undrafted guy from Louisville, he keeps showing up on the field in big situations and making plays. I have a one-on-one with him tonight at 5:30 on WCNC Charlotte. So that's the defensive backfield. Linebackers, it's thin after the starting group of Christian Roseboom and Trevin Wallace, because Josie Jewell was released with his continued concussion symptoms. And defensive line, that's what I'm really going to be keyed in on Wednesday, Colin, and Friday night next week in the game, is because that group has been kind of slow to be on the field together. Derek Brown has had to take some days off, planned, I think, because their big priority with him coming off the knee injury last year is to get him ready for week 1.
Right.
Bobby Brown, who they brought in from the Rams, wasn't there for the first couple of practices. DJ Wanham took a day or two to start getting in, and they've got the addition of Turk Wharton from the Kansas City Chiefs as well. So I'm really interested to see what that group looks like Wednesday and Friday, and plus the 2 rookies they picked up, Nick Scorton and Princely Uman-Miele.
Let's not forget those guys. Yeah, they could have really an explosive defensive line that really could help them. I mean, they're going to need it.
I was surprised when Dave Canales told us in minicamp that was the best group out there.
That's
it
wild.
should be improved,
Yeah.
and it should help the defense improve from, historically bad, at least.
Well, especially with all the losses they've had over the last couple of years, some big holes.
Yeah.
Frankie Luvu looks good up in with the Commanders.
I know that's a guy.
Man.
Some guys get walk in free agency and fans are disappointed. That was
guy.
one that the front office was too.
He looks great. He's rejuvenated. Wish we had him back. Anyway, looking forward to next week, Nick. Any other keys? I know we don't have long here to toss things at the 4 o'clock, but any other things that I'm missing?
Well, I mean, Hunter Renfrow was such a big story through the first week and a half of training camp. Certainly a guy that I think, if training camp had ended this past Tuesday would have made the 53-man roster, but of course it goes for a few more weeks, and he hasn't been out there the last couple of days with kind of a hamstring tweak. I'll be interested to see if he's back on the field for a padded practice tomorrow night at FanFest, or at least back on the field for those joint practices with the Cleveland Browns. Because listen, he's got a lot of ability, but your best ability is availability, of course, and he's got to be back out of practice if he wants to continue to try and make the team. So he jumps out as somebody that was a great story, could certainly help the team. I will also say this, ESPN reporting that Terry McLaurin in Washington wants out, and they published an article that said, and it was speculation, Panthers could be in a position to make a play for McLaurin.